discussion of whether or not it was a good pick. So Skoronski, we'll get to him in a second. Levis and the trade in order to make it into the second round. Tyjae Spears in the third round, an injured running back with no ACL, reportedly. The Titans decided to draft in the third round. They had needs at receiver. They had needs at tight end. They had needs on the offensive line. They have depth issues on defense, but nope, running back in the third round, a hurt one that is where the Titans decided to go. Then they don't have a fourth round pick because they're still paying off the Julio Jones trade. Then they end up taking a tight end who wasn't very good at Cincinnati and had by far the worst season of his career last year and had nagging injuries. A tackle that I saw on the NFL Network broadcast gave up the most sacks in the Big Ten according to Pro Football Focus. So I guess that's your Dennis Daly replacement. And then a wide receiver out of UT Martin. And I'm convinced they only took the wide receiver out of UT Martin in the 7th round so that they wouldn't get bombarded with people trying to figure out why they didn't take a wide receiver. So that's the draft class. Now you're going to hear that and you're going to say that sounds really, really negative. And maybe in large part it's because it kind of is. But that's not how I feel about the draft class. And I would say that we have to separate our opinions on the draft class and the draft process into two totally separate things. Because if you ask me, what do I think of the Titans draft? I don't have a problem with the draft. I really don't. I mean, I get the idea that everybody's, hey, we need a receiver and we need I get that. But 5 years from now, nobody's going to care about what you needed when you went into the draft. Again, Corey Davis, not a good pick, and you needed a receiver in the 2017 draft. And 4 or 5 years later, nobody cared that you needed a receiver in that draft, and that's why you passed up all those good players in that draft. So I have never, ever cared about that kind of stuff. The players themselves will know about down the road. Is Peter Skoronski going to be Taylor Lewan, where for 8 years he's your left tackle, plays at a semi-Pro Bowl level? Maybe he can be better than that. Maybe he can be a perennial Pro Bowler. Maybe he can be Joe Thomas. If he's Joe Thomas, then it's an excellent pick, and there would be no reason to question it ever. If he's Bruce Matthews, a guy who can play tackle, he can play guard, Bruce played center, can play all across the line, he makes it to 14 Pro Bowls, and he goes right to Canton, then you can't say it was a bad pick. If he's Chance Warmack, it was terrible. But there's no way that we're going to know this about any of these guys. I mean, Will Levis might be Jimmy Clausen, the QB1 that slipped into the second round. Why did Jimmy Clausen slip into the second round? And then we found out it was because he wasn't a very good college player. Or he could be Drew Brees, who was the first pick of the second round in the 2001 draft. I have no idea. Tyjae Spears could be the long-term replacement for Derrick Henry, and he could be Barry Sanders. He can also be Darrington Evans. So when it comes to the players, I'm not sure I know enough about any of these guys to be able to have a full-on opinion. I haven't seen them on the practice field. I mean, again, I know enough about Levis. I know enough about Skoronski. I have questions about why you would take an injured running back in the third round, given the position that you are in at receiver and given the position that you are in some of the other aspects of your team. I have questions as to why you would do that. But again, those are more draft process issues than they are the actual draft. So as far as all these players are concerned, it's like Malcolm Butler once told me, clean slate with a full plate. Peter Skoronski needs to be starting. Will Levis needs to be a franchise quarterback. Tyjae Spears needs to be more than a third down running back complement to Derrick Henry in the long run. That's what they need out of this draft class. Are any of those things going to come to fruition? I don't know. Now there's the draft process. And I was very disappointed with how the Titans ran this draft. I was very disappointed with what happened Thursday night. Again, the leaking, the business being done in public, the Houston Texans getting your quarterback because you could not keep your mouth shut or you could not run a successful smokescreen operation. That is what happened on Thursday night. And so, again, I don't even like C.J. Stroud, But if you, and I'm talking about Vrabel and Rand Carthon, if you had your heart set on C.J. Stroud, if you thought he was the bee's knees, and that's what you need. When you draft a quarterback, that's how you have to feel. That is kind of a concern I have with Will Levis, is that the Titans are, oh, we love Will Levis. You took a guard before you drafted him. Hopefully he's a tackle. But you took an offensive lineman. You don't take an offensive lineman ahead of a quarterback. If you think that that quarterback is the man, you take the quarterback. And obviously they thought C.J. Stroud was the man. And they would have had him if they could have just kept their mouth shut. Houston would have taken Will Anderson, expecting Arizona to do the same. The Titans would have surprised everybody, traded up to 3, and they would have taken Stroud. That's what would have happened. And so for whatever reason, whether it's the fact that the Titans couldn't do a good enough job protecting their own secrets, whether it was the fact that the other teams did a much better job of running smoke screens, whatever it could be, the Titans failed miserably on Thursday. On Friday, their process was not as bad. I understand take the quarterback is a small price to pay. But then Rand Carthon got to the podium, and it was almost as if they were offended by the fact that the media would bombard them with questions with, why did you take an injured running back in the 3rd round? Why did you take this quarterback who had all of these question marks coming into the draft that have been dissected ad nauseum? How come you would do all of this? And Ian, I'm sorry I didn't include this in here, but Rand Carthon wanted everybody to be positive on Friday night. I'm sitting here listening to this press conference. I'm watching the Titans take an injured running back. I'm watching the Titans take a quarterback. And the Titans should be bombarded with questions about, what are you going to do at receiver? Why are you not drafting a receiver? You didn't sign a receiver, so why are you not drafting a receiver? Why are you taking an injured running back in the 3rd round when you have the best running back in the league? Why are you taking a quarterback who threw all these interceptions? Those are all fair questions, and Rand Carthon decided to get on his soapbox. He of 3 months on the job and decided to lecture people who have been doing this for 20-plus years on how they should be asking questions.
I just want to say something real quick. You know, today and as yesterday, these kids are living their dreams, right? Having their name called, you know, realizing a dream and being drafted. And I don't want these, you know, interactions between us to always feel like we got to take a negative turn. And, you know, this should be a joyous moment for us to praise these kids. This is a moment these kids are going to see this, you know, and this is a moment for them and their families to rejoice in, you know, because it's only going to happen once, you know. We joked, you know, earlier about, Jim and I joked earlier about me not being drafted, you know what I mean? And that's a moment, you know, in my career I can never get back. Coach was drafted in the 3rd round. That's a moment he'll always remember. So let's keep that in mind, you know, when we're talking about these kids and where they've come from and where, because a lot of these kids have overcome a lot, you know, to get to this point, you know. So let's keep that in mind in moments like this. There'll be other times to critique what they've done. These kids haven't even stepped on the NFL field yet. You know, so let's keep that in mind. This is a moment for them and their families to have something to be proud of and enjoy this moment.
Oh, my God. I mean, and when he said that, I felt to myself like, who did the Titans hire? Why did they hire this guy? You are not going to lecture the media on what questions to ask. And by the way, you think Will Levis doesn't know that he threw interceptions at Kentucky? You think he hasn't heard that over the last couple of months? You think Tajay Spears doesn't know that he's got a torn ACL or has no ACL and cartilage issues and arthritis? Get on the phone, call Ian Rappaport, and yell at him because he told America that right after he was picked. Telling the media how to ask questions. That was embarrassing. And then the roll the dice, play the board. Roll the dice, play the board. That press conference was a freaking train wreck. It was embarrassing. Then again, you know, as far as the 3rd day stuff, you know, to me, those guys are all Scarbinis until they prove otherwise. We'll learn from there. I did wish the Titans had traded back a couple of times, maybe to pick up some more picks. I also think the Titans have to worry about picking up picks in next year's draft because they're already down a 3rd and they're already down a 5th. They used the third in order to get Will Levis. They used the fifth last year in order to get Dennis Daly. So the Titans have some issues as far as next year's draft is concerned. So, again, the process for the draft. I don't have a problem with the idea of going best player available, best player available, best player available. I don't have a problem with that at all. But you should have protected yourself in free agency to sign actual starting players at these positions. They don't have to be great starting players. They just have to be starting players to sign these players so that you don't get in a spot where all of a sudden it's day 3 of the draft. You don't have a 4th round pick and you have no starting receiver outside of a guy who last year as a rookie got hurt for half the season. The process I don't like. The actual picks, we'll see. And to be honest with you, I really don't have a problem with these players. Again, the 3rd round running back who's hurt is questionable, but I don't have a problem. If he's Barry Sanders, he's Barry Sanders. I mean, the way they were looking in the draft room when they drafted him on TV, you would have thought that they just picked up Derrick Henry II the way they did. I mean, they were all shaking. They were high-fiving. They were smiling. I couldn't believe it. 615-737-1025. I see your phones. We will get to them throughout today because we are reacting to the draft, but we still have a lot of talking to do. On to Will Levis and the draft pick the Titans made. And I do hope the Titans understand what they did on Friday night. Not for Levis, not to me, not to you, but to them. All in all, the picks, we'll see. The process, I'm going to give Rand Carthon a break because he's a rookie. But, man, and also, if you're mad at Carthon, like a lot of you all were for the Levis pick or the Spears pick or you need to funnel some of that anger to Mike Vrabel because he's an equal partner in all of this. So you can't be mad at one guy. You have to be mad at both of them. But, again, these picks could be good players. There's no way to know. There's no way to – these draft grades are stupid anyway. A+, stupid. But the process and how we got here where we are today, woo, I didn't like it. 615-737-1025. Jared, what'd you think of the Will Levis pick? I'll tell you next. Stillman and Company, right here, 1025, 1063 The Game. I do want to thank our friends at TriStar Moving. They were the presenting sponsor of this program for almost 3 years. In fact, when they bought the naming rights to the Stillman and Company program, they bought the rights to Jared and the GM. That's how long ago it was that TriStar signed up with us. They moved me. They were good partners. They're good people that own that company. That being said, the Stillman and Company program is now looking for a presenting sponsor. So if you're interested, our wonderful salespeople will do a fantastic job taking care of that. As I've said many times, this is a very popular show. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Krebs Kubota wants to help you get your job done right with the parts you need and a service department that can handle maintenance and repairs from the largest excavator to the smallest 2-cycle engine. For your farm, home, or commercial needs, Krebs Kubota will keep your Kubota running like a Kubota. Krebs Kubota, Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment dealer, with convenient locations in Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. Also online at KrebsKubota.com.
Michelle Knezvik here for Superbook Sports. Baseball is back and the push for the postseason is on for hockey and hoops. Make it all count this spring with Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is the best wagering app around with a direct line to experienced bookmakers behind the counter in the one and only Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager all in the same day. Don't let spring pass you by without winning some money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
When the game goes into overtime. But the game goes into overtime. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Pick up Bud Light at your local convenience store today. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
For more than a century, AM radio has evolved to meet the needs of our community. In their car, at home, or on the job, more than 80 million listeners depend on AM radio each month. AM radio is also the backbone of the emergency alert system, which keeps us safe in dangerous times. It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Anyone want to tell me what happened?
Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
We can obviously be transparent. Kentucky was a much different football team in 2021 than what they were in 2022. So if we protect him when he's out there at whatever point, if we don't protect him better than what it was, it's probably going to look the same, just like it is for every quarterback. So we try to look at the really good exposures, the great performances. We try to look at them, what they look like at their worst. And then just try to get, pull the curtain and see what it looks like. But there were some really impressive performances against some big-time defenses in the SEC. Now, there's some decisions that have to be better. We can't put the ball in harm's way, no matter who our quarterback is.
There you go. That was Mike Vrabel after the pick of Will Levis. And it's funny because Liam Cohen told me, the offensive coordinator at Kentucky, when I asked him about all the decisions that Will Levis made, he said Will would be the first one to tell you there's some bad decisions that were made in there. I mean, again, to me, it's not the end of the world that he threw all those interceptions. I mean, he threw 10 interceptions last year at Kentucky. Dan Marino threw 29 his last year at Pittsburgh. And I think Dan Marino was pretty good. So that's not the end of the world to me. But the decision to draft Will Levis, I like Will Levis. I've told you guys that for weeks. I have taken all of your phone calls and all of your text messages from you guys that watched him play against Tennessee and said, hey, he sucks. I have taken every single one of those. He does not suck. I have watched the tape. As I told you guys for the last couple of weeks, I've liked Will Levis more than Hendon Hooker and more than C.J. Stroud. Now, obviously, I liked Anthony Richardson the best. And I am still gutted by the fact that he's on the Colts. But if I had to rank him coming into this, it would be Richardson 1, Young 2, Levis 3, Stroud 4, Hooker 5. And I know the Titans clearly disagree with me. They like Stroud, reportedly, more than they like Levis. That's fine. I like Levis fine. I think the way the Titans feel about Levis is the same way I feel about Levis, which is I like him. I told you he was the closest thing to Steve McNair in this draft, in my opinion. He's a tough football player. He's got a rocket arm. He can make some unbelievable throws. He is dedicated to football. As I said going into this, I think Will Levis is 90% of everything I'm looking for when it comes to being a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. He's got the dedication. He's got the arm. He's got, the elite traits. He's got the toughness. He played through those injuries last year. He already knows your system because he's run it in college, and he's 10% bozo. And so you got to work the bozo out of him so that it's more like 97% everything that you want in a quarterback and 3% bozo. And then if it's 97 everything you want in a quarterback, the 3% bozo will kind of just become a personality quirk. And everybody will love it. They'll be like, that's our guy that puts mayo in coffee. But 90% of everything you want 10% bozo. And like I said, I like Will Levis. I don't love Will Levis. I love Anthony Richardson. I told you last week I would be willing to put all my chips in the pot in order to get Anthony Richardson and develop Anthony Richardson. And I never said that about Will Levis. And obviously the Titans felt the same way about C.J. Stroud that I felt about Richardson, because they tried to put all their chips in the pot in order to get C.J. Stroud, and then they didn't. Well, I hope the Titans understand, though, by doing what they did, by trading up and drafting Will Levis, their futures, in my opinion, depend on this young man. Their future depends on, can Tim Kelly and Charles London develop this young man the way that, again, they promised us when they hired Tim Kelly and Charles London that they would be able to do. I do not see this season the Titans will win some games. I think at a minimum, if there's not massive injuries, I think at a minimum the Titans will win 9 or 10 games. Because with Tannehill, Henry, and Vrabel, you don't have to have receivers or an offensive line in order to be able to win some games. So do I think the Titans are competing for the Super Bowl? No. But I think the Titans will probably win, 9 or 10 games or whatever. And then after that, I think you're flipping it over to Levis. And at that point, it's showtime. And you're not going to survive if this kid fails. You're not going to be able to get another shot at it. This is not Malik last year. When the Titans drafted Malik Willis, I love this. Jared, you loved Malik. No, I didn't. I never said I loved Malik Willis. And I was very critical of him at training camp and the idea of making him a backup quarterback. I liked the process of drafting Malik Willis in the 3rd round. And I said to all of you at the time, 3rd round pick with 1st round hype, which meant that in training camp, the excitement would be there to watch Malik play, even though he was a 3rd round pick, just like Davis Webb was a 3rd round pick of the New York Giants, just like Mason Rudolph was a 3rd round pick of the Steelers. There was nobody that was interested in watching him play. They had Big Ben. But there was excitement about seeing Malik because he had 1st round hype. But he was a 3rd round pick. With Levis, there is no, there's not a lot invested here. You invested a 2nd round pick in him and next year's 3rd round pick. That's a lot. He's your franchise quarterback now. Period. And if you do not develop him, you're fired. You don't get multiple chances at this. I talked to a general manager who is no longer in the NFL one time, and he told me he drafted one quarterback, and it was a bust. And he told me that he was having a conversation with that quarterback, and that quarterback told him something about his lifestyle. If I tell you what it is, it'll give it away, so I can't do that. And he told me he walked out of the meeting room with the quarterback, and his hands were just in his head of, what did I just do? I cannot believe I just did this. And that guy got fired. The truth is, you're not going to get 10 cracks at this. And so I don't know how long Mike Vrabel's contract's for. And, Vrabel was arrogant enough after they lost the Bengals game to say he'll be the coach for a while. And not as long as I'm here, which will be a while. But at the end of the day, man, if you don't win with Will Levis, they're going to get somebody else in here. You're not going to get another shot at this. So I hope that they really love Will Levis as opposed to like Will Levis. I like Will Levis, but I probably wouldn't risk my career on Will Levis. I would risk my career on Anthony Richardson. That's how much I liked him. They liked C.J. Stroud that much. They were willing to do whatever it took, according to Diana Rossini, to go up and get the player that they thought was going to change their team. It was not the guy they drafted. If Levis doesn't work out, they're fired. And that's a lot of pressure for me as far as, man, your tenure as coach is now directly tied to Will Levis. And if they had picked him at 11, it would have been the same way. But there are no do-overs on this one. This is not a, let's use the 86th pick and see what happens, like it was with Malik Willis. This was a, Will Levis is the future of our team. The Chicago Bears in the 2017 draft drafted Mitchell Trubisky in the 1st round. not only did those guys get fired, but the guys who came after them got fired because of Mitchell Trubisky. The Kansas City Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes. Every single person associated with Mahomes, except for apparently Eric Bieniemy, has gotten a job based off of what Mahomes has done, and they've won 2 Super Bowls, been to 3, and hosted the AFC Championship game 5 straight times. But they loved Mahomes. With Vrabel, if this doesn't work out, as far as turning Will Levis into the quarterback that he's capable of, if this doesn't work out, that's it. There are not going to be any do-overs. You're not going to get a third crack at, well, Todd Downing wasn't very good, so that was his fault, and Tim Kelly wasn't very good, so that was his fault. At some point, they're going to say to you, what are you doing hiring these bozos that can't develop quarterbacks or run effective offenses? So I don't know how the Titans feel about this as far as, how much do they like Levis compared to how much do they love Levis? Next year's draft class, we're told, has great quarterbacks. I do not wait on next year's class, so I'm not going to say they should have done that. But I hope they love him, because if they don't, they may be losing their jobs over Will Levis. 615-737-1025. He is the franchise quarterback. 615-737-1025 here on the program. And then we'll get to your phones, and I see them lined up. And I told you, we got to do some talking to start the show, and then we're to your reaction. There's something Vrabel did when it came to the pick of Levis that really, truly pissed me off. That it's just so unnecessary. And I think it is actually counterproductive to what they're trying to do and what they need to do, and we'll get to that next. 615-737-1025 here on the Stillman and Company program. Let me tell all the fine folks out there about something really important once I get this loaded onto my iPad. Let me tell all the fine folks out there to join us for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament presented by Gary Force Acura, benefiting Souls for Souls on June 7th at the Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebrities to support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at thegamenational.com/golf.
The NFL offseason is in full swing, but you'll never miss any of the big news. Thanks to Yahoo's Charles Robinson.
They know that there's a chance that they're going to have to deal this guy.
He's one of the best insiders there is.
All of a sudden, he becomes a functional player who we thought was just trash.
Join Charles Robinson every Thursday morning at 8 on Robby and Rex Road, presented by the NFL Alumni Association on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You don't have just an ordinary mom in your life. She's the best. Her work never stops. Her sacrifices are many. Her love is unfailing. This Mother's Day, Genesis Diamonds invites you to join us in celebrating and appreciating the mothers in our lives. Stop in and let one of our trusted advisors help you find a special, meaningful gift. Layering necklaces, stackable rings, eternity bands, pearls, elegant diamond pendants, and of course, stunning diamond earrings. Great Mother's Day ideas for any budget. There's no doubt we love Mom, but sometimes a little extra appreciation goes a long way as a thank you for helping us through challenges, making sacrifices, and always putting the family first. So whether it's her first Mother's Day or her 60th, Mom deserves a gift that's anything but ordinary. And at Genesis, that's our specialty. Exquisite rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, heirloom pieces. Timeless gifts of jewelry that she can enjoy and cherish for decades to come, and always be reminded of how special she is to the family. Genesis Diamonds, online at genesisdiamonds.net.
Does this sound familiar? Did your agent provide excellent entertainment with their TikTok videos and constant social media posts about themselves while completely ignoring that you hired them to sell your home? Did they tell you how wonderful they were? How many followers they had? They probably never sold your home, but hey, they did get 15 likes on their selfies. Hashtag my clients love me. Don't let that happen to you. Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why the only likes we care about are our clients loving our service. Ask us about our prepay with TJ option and how it can save you thousands. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Office number 615-432-2919.
Do you take pride in your work? Do you want to help build Nashville? You need to join Ironworkers Local 492. They build Nashville, working on everything from steel erection on buildings and bridges, plant maintenance, concrete, reinforcing, conveyor work, sheeting, welding, rigging, fence erecting, curtain wall, window wall, and a variety of other specialty work. They provide the best skilled iron workers for contractors and projects in Nashville. You want to build Nashville? You want to be proud of doing it? Visit ironworkers492.org. Join Ironworkers Local 492.
How's Wingstop sound? Crispy, juicy, classic wings. Made to order, cooked to perfection. And sauced and tossed in those 11 soul-satisfying flavors. Paired with hand-cut seasoned fries, house-made honey mustard, blue cheese, or signature Wingstop ranch. And of course, spicy Cajun fried corn. I think you've heard enough. Get your flavor delivered at wingstop.com.
Seems like everything costs more these days. Food, utilities, medical costs, you name it. But as prices go up, our family budget stays the same. Fortunately, with Farm Bureau Health Plan's Core Choice coverage, we can save $3,600 a year compared to the leading competitor. And we've got better coverage with a lower premium, lower deductible, free telehealth visits, and access to one of the largest networks available. Start saving today at FBHP.com or visit your local Farm Bureau office.
The postseason is here. Whether it's the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs or the NBA, we have you covered on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Paul Feinbaum and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Tune in for Sounds Baseball tomorrow night at 6:35 on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds take on the St. Paul Saints, the AAA affiliate of the Minnesota Twins. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. So, on Friday, the Titans drafted Will Levis with the 33rd overall pick. Not the 11th overall pick, but the 33rd overall pick. And then, after they did that, Mike Vrabel got to the podium and was asked that anytime you draft a quarterback, you're going to be asked about what does this mean for the starter? And unlike Andy Reid, who got up there and said, Alex Smith is our starting quarterback. Unlike Ted Thompson, who said Brett Favre is our starting quarterback. Unlike Floyd Reese, who drafted Steve McNair in 1995 and said he sits for 2 years. Or said that Vince Young wasn't going to start. No, Vrabel will not get out there and say Ryan Tannehill's the starting quarterback. He'll tell you who the starting quarterback today is.
Ryan will be the starting quarterback on Monday. Malik will be the backup. Will be the third quarterback. And what I've told them is whatever happens after that will be up to the players. That's what it's always been here. That's what we always want it to be.
Competition will play itself out. Is there a scenario where you keep 3 quarterbacks through the season?
Of course. I mean, there's a million scenarios, that we'll have to work through, between Rand and the staff and myself and everybody. I mean, that's, we just are starting the offseason. We're 2 weeks into the offseason program. Looking forward to phase 2 with the players that come on Monday. And then when we're able to get the rookies in here with rookie minicamp.
Rand Carthon may say something stupid on Friday. This is his first go at this. This is not Mike Vrabel's first rodeo. He is not a rookie. And so to get up there and just basically say, at this point in time, like, oh, no, Ryan Tannehill's the starter on Monday, but he won't tell us that Tannehill is the starting quarterback. Congratulations, Mike. You've introduced a quarterback controversy onto your team when you don't need one because Will Levis should not play ahead of Ryan Tannehill. But good for you, Mike. You know all the answers. Remember when the Titans acquired Tannehill and John Robinson held a press conference and said, Marcus is the starter and Ryan is the backup. No matter how much people started pumping quarterback controversy, it never happened because the Titans never allowed it. Now, ultimately, Marcus lost his job, but there was never a controversy at that point, and the Titans never let it become a thing. Instead, Vrabel is going to let every OTA, every training camp practice, every preseason game lead to some sort of debate or discussion. Good job, Mike. Let's go to your phones. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And I go back to the Skoronski thing. Is he a guard or a tackle? I'm not going to tell you. Why? I mean, when you put him out there, we'll know. It's just ridiculous. Andy Reid can come out and say Alex Smith's the starting quarterback, but Vrabel, he can't say Tannehill's a quarterback because we're going to have competition every day, and Malik is going to say, okay, yeah, Malik. AG is going to kick us off today here on the program. Has been waiting patiently. What's up, AG?
Derek the Shock Jock Stillman.
Whoa. What are we shocking about here, AG?
sending shockwaves all throughout Tennessee because it sounds like you got a vendetta against Mike Vrabel, my brother.
I'm
going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. This is one reason why. Because I was watching the draft show. The 11th pick, you was like, I'll take Will Levis. But we got the top-rated offensive lineman out the whole draft, whether what position he play. We need an anchor on the offensive line because we got one on the defensive line that started in the trenches. Way more important than receivers, the trenches, where it really go down there. And we still got Levis in the second round. And you trying to peg that to Vrabel if he don't work out? Some people would have traded up to get Levis.
Well, nobody traded up to get Levis except for you.
You might would have traded up. I don't think his job depends on no Levis.
Oh, his job absolutely depends on Will Levis.
Round, man.
It absolutely depends. If John Robinson, thank you for your call. If John Robinson can get fired, if he can get fired for screwing up the A.J. Brown trade, you don't think the Titans would fire their coach if he can't develop the young quarterback? Because let's say you lost last year. You lost 7 games in a row and didn't make it to the playoffs. Let's say you have a mediocre season this year, which with no receivers, you might get there. Then Levis becomes the starting quarterback, and let's say he stinks. You're fired. You can't have 3 bad seasons in a row. Vince Lombardi can't have 3 bad seasons in a row. You think Mike Vrabel can have 3 bad seasons in a row? Especially the way that Vrabel talks to people. You know Vrabel can't do. Vrabel cannot get away, and he is going. I think the rubber's going to meet the road, and I still think that what happened Thursday night is a huge blemish on Mike Vrabel. I like Mike Vrabel. I do. I think Vrabel's a tremendous coach. And I told you when they fired John Robinson, and this was about being aligned and Vrabel more power, and I was like, I want you to stay the coach. I don't want you to do any more. But if Will Levis doesn't work out, they're all fired. This is the NFL. This is how it works. Mike Munchak, when he took over as coach, his first year was 2011. They drafted Jake Locker in the first round. If Jake Locker had worked out and had become the next Tom Brady, Mike Munchak would still be the coach of the Tennessee Titans today. But he didn't. And Mike Munchak got fired. That's how it works. So don't tell me that Will Levis has nothing to do with Mike Vrabel's job security. I think it has everything to do with Mike Vrabel's job security. This is his quarterback now. Long term, this is his quarterback. This is who he's hitching the wagon to. Mitch is up next here on the program. Thank you for calling. What's up, Mitch?
Man, all this heat over the Titans drafting a quarterback for backup because they freaked out over what happened last year.
Secondly, they didn't draft this guy to be a backup.
Oh, I think they did because I had called in after the season when y'all were talking about what do the Titans do now. I said, I think this coming up year is going to be a throwaway year. I think they're really going to go after a quarterback in 24, and they're going to acquire pieces. Now, put that conspiracy hat on, we have a new stadium being built. We're going to hear rumors of being rebuilt so we can have a stacked team for that stadium being open. The same thing happened in Nissan. Tell me I'm wrong, Jared.
What do you mean?
That we put together the best team the Titans ever had when Nissan Stadium opened and they moved here.
But they didn't
try to do that. You got to remember there was like 2 or 3 seasons before they played at Vanderbilt,
They were
right?
not trying to rebuild in 1998 when they went 8-8. They were not trying to rebuild in 1997 when they went 8-8. I mean, what happened was they drafted Javon Curse. That's what happened. That they had an 8-8 team, and they drafted Javon Curse. And all of a sudden, Javon Curse was so good that you went from an 8-8 team to a 13-3 team. But it wasn't like that was the long-term plan of the team. And I know this because I spent every day for 5 years with the guy that built it.
Well, you know more than I do. I'm just saying what it looks like for me as a fan because you
and
go in.
I don't understand what you're saying about drafting a backup quarterback. What do you mean drafting? You think Levis is going to be the backup quarterback?
Then they go and draft a hurt running back. They're not setting up for next year.
Who drafts a backup quarterback in the second round?
When you lose 7 games in a row because you don't have a backup quarterback.
Who trades a second-round pick for a backup quarterback?
When you lose 7 games in a row,
nobody has ever done that. Nobody trades a second-round pick. Thank you for the call. Aaron Rodgers got traded for a second-round pick. Nobody ever trades a second-round pick for a backup quarterback because, well, we need insurance. When the Titans did that, they traded a 4th-round pick to get Ryan Tannehill. Nobody trades a second-round pick for a backup. Nobody uses, there is not one position in the NFL where you draft somebody in the second round with the intention of them being a backup. Now, sometimes they're Dylan Radins and they stink and they become a backup because they weren't very good and you shouldn't have drafted them. But not because they didn't expect you to start. Will Levis is the quarterback of the future for the Titans. He is not the future backup. And, I mean, if anything, what this did was it told us that Ryan Tannehill's not going to be the starter in 2024, which most of us assumed. But now we know. Now we know that it's going to be Levis's show. Because with Levis, you only get 4 years. I do take this back, by the way. There was one team that drafted a backup quarterback in the second round. It was Philadelphia. And they drafted Jalen Hurts. And I still don't understand kind of what the point of that was, but hell, it worked out for him, so who knows. And Jalen is certainly not a backup anymore. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. Here's the one thing I don't understand. And, again, this doesn't mean that Levis won't be Dan Marino, because he might be. It doesn't mean that he won't be Drew Brees, because he might be. But there's just one element of the way the Titans went about this that I don't totally get. And we'll get to that coming up next. FanDuel Sportsbook, that's my official sportsbook app. It's time for the NBA playoffs, and you can get on all the action right from the first tip with FanDuel. Right now, all customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every weekend when you bet the NBA playoffs. That's right. Just place a 3+ leg same-game parlay or same-game parlay plus on any NBA playoff game, and you'll get bonus bets back if you don't win. FanDuel has great promotions every day. It's a safe and secure app, and you can get paid instantly. And you can take a look for bets you like. How about the Miami Heat? I mean, I'm sure Robby Stanley's doing jumping jacks with the way the Miami Heat are playing. Jimmy Butler's turned into a superstar. There's no better place to bet all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/JGM and get a no-sweat same-game parlay every week into the playoffs. That's FanDuel.com/JGM. FanDuel Sportsbook, official betting partner of the NBA. 21 and older and present in Tennessee. The bonus is issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Want to jump into the mind of a 15-year NFL vet? Well, here's your chance. D-Mace. It's Ask D-Mace.
Come on, bring them on.
Ask questions on football and life to Derek Mason every Friday at 12:30 on Ask D-Mace.
Don't mess with her. The skilled guy. Money reigns supreme.
On Caroline, Willie, and
D-Mace.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Attention, buckaroos. It's time for the Franklin Rodeo. So saddle up and hold on to your lasso. It's 3 days of bull riding, calf roping, western wear, funny clowns, and some of the most talented horses you've ever seen. Join the Stampede from May 18th to May 20th. The Franklin Rodeo is held at the Williamson County Ag Expo Park and is brought to you by Ram Rodeo, Franklin Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Williamson Health, Event 1FX, and Wesley Mortgage. Tickets on sale now at franklinrodeo.com. It's a buckin' good time.
She would do anything for you. She's your biggest fan. She's your mom. And mom turned upside down spells wow. So give her a day full of wows this Mother's Day, starting with an incredible gift from The Diamond Cellar. Hi, it's Alex Johnson from The Diamond Cellar. From classic diamond jewelry to luxury pieces from our world-class designers, we have the perfect gifts for every mom, stepmom, or grandmother. Show her how much you care with something she really wants, but would never buy herself. Visit us at The Diamond Cellar in Green Hills. The possibilities are endless.
Along with being Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer, Parman Tractor is your one-stop shop for professionals in the tree care and tree removal business. More bark brush chippers and Rayco stump grinders are industry-leading machines made for more to keep pace with you. And Parman's parts and service team will keep your machines running. Durability, efficiency, and trust. That's what you'll get with Moorbark and Rayco. And with Parman. Swing by Parman or visit ParmanTractor.com to learn more about Moorbark and Rayco. Parman Tractor's employee-owned team promises totally outrageous customer service.
Parman Energy is your one-stop petroleum solution across all of Tennessee, offering turnkey petroleum solutions for professionals in major industries, serving trucking fleets, construction companies, industrial plants, and more. Whether a large corporation or owner-operator, Parman Energy has your diesel fuel, lubricant, DEF, and equipment needs. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman. Visit ParmanEnergy.com for more info. Your Tennessee petroleum solution, providing totally outrageous customer service.
A show that lives and breathes sports.
Focus in, focus in, focus in.
From the SEC.
Credit to the Alabamas, the Georgias, and the Ohio States of the world.
To the Preds.
They've been in a lot of really tight games, but they're not winning enough of them.
To the Titans.
He's talking about what this franchise has built over the years.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace.
What is this? Check it out.
Weekdays from 11 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You were one of the guys projected to go in the first round. You obviously didn't. Like, how much does that put a chip on your shoulder, and how are you able to use that for motivation?
I think regardless of where I got picked, I feel like it's not going to change my work ethic, regardless if I went, first overall or 33rd. You can't kind of let the circumstances dictate your preparation and the level of intensity you bring to your everyday practice. So, definitely, a little bit of a chip, but just know that, I was going to work hard regardless of where I got picked.
That was Will Levis on Friday night. Good answer, Will. Let's go back to your phones. Freddie is up next on a Draft Reaction Monday. What's up, Freddie?
Hey, Jerry, how you doing, man? It's been a while since I talked to you.
I know it's been a while. Good to hear from you, Freddie.
Same here, man. But I'm not going to keep too much of your time. I just need to ask you two questions. Okay, I agree with you 100%. If Levis don't work out, it'd be a baby job. And my question is, why in the world he wouldn't pick Hooker when he had a chance to get Hooker between Levis? And then my second question is, Garrett, they dropped a running back that I never heard of. So does this mean they might be trying to trade Derrick Henry or what? So it's good to talk to you again, Garrett. I just listened to your answer.
Take care of yourself, Freddie. Good man right there. I think the first thing was with Levis, why Levis over Hooker? Let me say this. I think NFL teams are skeptical of the Josh Heupel offense. I think this is kind of that Art Briles system from Baylor that produced such standouts like Robert Griffin III and Kendall Wright. And I think because of that, I think there's probably a lot of people that are nervous about investing in that system. And I think that's ultimately what did Hooker in. Levis runs the offense that the Titans run. Liam Cohen was the offensive coordinator last year of the Rams. The year before that, he was UK's offensive coordinator when Levis took off, and he brought in the Rams offense. It is the Sean McVay, Shanahan West Coast system. And you run the Sean McVay, Shanahan West Coast system. So there is more compatibility with what Levis does right now compared to what Hooker does, which is like speaking a different language. Now, I still believe in Hooker the kid. I do. But I think when you saw how far Jalen Hyatt fell down the board and how far Hendon Hooker fell down the board, and this is not, let me say this, where a guy gets drafted is not confirmation of whether or not that guy is any good or how good that guy may be. In fact, I think it's the opposite. We see these guys get taken in the 5th round that become superstars. Well, every other general manager screwed up. So I'm not saying that this means Hooker's bad or Hyatt's bad or Cedric Tillman's bad or Levis is bad or anything like that. But I think that the NFL right now is having a hard time processing Jeremy Pruitt's offense and what that will look like in the NFL. That's why the only guy that ended up going high from Tennessee was the guy who played tackle and played great against Georgia and Will Anderson at Alabama, guys that'll be in the NFL. Because you can see that and say, well, if he can stop Will Anderson, that will translate. Now, the Tajay Spears pick, I don't know what the hell the Titans were doing with the Tajay Spears pick. I don't know if they look at him as the heir apparent to Derrick Henry. I don't know if they look at him. Somebody tweeted out that this will replace Dontrell Hilliard. And I thought, replace Dontrell Hilliard in the third round? Dontrell Hilliard is a minimum veteran off somebody's practice squad, Scarbini-type player. And I like Hilliard. But the value of that, you get that, you don't need that in the third round. So to answer your question about is he the heir apparent to Derrick, I don't know. He looks nothing like Derrick, and he's got an injury history, which would make me very nervous. But they could not have drafted him in the third round to be a third down running back. There's just no way they could have done that. I just do not believe that that's what they did. Daryl is up next here on the program, but it was good to hear Freddie. Daryl is up next. Thank you for calling. What's up, Daryl?
Hey, what's up, Jay?
Give it to me.
I call you Jay?
All good.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth whenever you were talking about with the fifth round pick, because I think back to RG3 and Kirk Cousins of what the Redskins did. So whenever you were talking about is Will Levis going to be the starting quarterback because he's a second round pick, yeah, that could be the thing. And they kind of did that with RG3, and you had an injury-prone quarterback. However, Kirk Cousins came in, and he ended up being a better quarterback, in my opinion, than RG3. And obviously, Kirk Cousins is getting paid now, and he has weapons around him with the Vikings, and he's leading them to the playoffs. So I don't necessarily say that Will Levis is going to be the guaranteed quarterback moving forward. I mean, that's what we have right now, but, I mean, we could draft somebody next year.
What happened to the coach who drafted RG3 and the general manager who drafted RG3 and that whole – what happened to them?
That's a good point. They ended up getting they got let go. And then they also – yeah, and then Kirk Cousins, he left there. So, and then Washington ended up losing their name of the Redskins, and then they've kind of –
You seem to really care about that. You seem to really want to say that on the air. You seem really excited to say Redskins on the radio.
Me? No. I feel like
because losing the name had absolutely nothing to do with RG3. Thank you for your call.
No, it didn't.
Losing the name had nothing to do with that. This is my point about the Levis thing. Levis might stink. He might. I like him. I don't love him. I like him. But he might not be good. But if he is not good, then they're fired. And somebody else will come in. RG3 was not good. And so Mike Shanahan got fired. And Scott McCloughan got fired. And then Kirk Cousins became the quarterback. And Jay Gruden got fired. And they never loved Kirk Cousins enough to give him a contract. And so all these guys got fired. They traded for Alex Smith. He got hurt. Then they brought in Ron Rivera. And guess what? If Sam Howell doesn't work out with Ron Rivera with this new owner coming in, there's a chance that Ron Rivera might get fired. Like, this is the NFL. And I think Rivera's a fine coach. But this is how the NFL works. So you can tell me, well, just because RG3 was taken second, RG3 was the starting quarterback. And they gave him every opportunity. And then when it didn't work, they got fired. And that's what's going to happen here, is Will Levis will get the opportunity to be the starting quarterback. And when it doesn't work out, and if it doesn't work out with Will Levis, because I think there's a chance it works out, I like Levis. If it doesn't work out with Will Levis, they're fired. And somebody else will come in, and Will Levis will be treated like Jake Locker that last year that Ken Wisenhunt was the coach, that Locker was here, and then they'll go looking for their next quarterback. Unless Levis plays great, like Daniel Jones did. The Giants drafted Daniel Jones. They didn't play well. That coach got fired. Then they brought in a new coach. They didn't play well. That coach got fired. Then they brought in a new coach. Daniel Jones was now on the hot seat. He played well. He got a contract. That's how the NFL works, folks. And that's what's going to happen here. And that's why I said, they may not love Levis. I don't love Levis. I like Levis. And there's a big difference between like and love, as we all know. But would I hitch my wagon to Will Levis as far as my career as a general manager? I mean, maybe, because I probably would have picked him at 11. If I liked him enough to hitch my wagon to him, I would have picked him at 11 because there's no guarantee that I would have been able to come back around and get him. So I probably would have done that if I was in their position. But that's a lot to put your name, on that dotted line, to push those chips in the middle. That's what they did with Levis, whether you like it or not. And I think the hard part for a lot of people is they're struggling to come to grips with the fact that they don't really like Will Levis, and so they see this, and I think that scares them. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We will continue to get to your phones, as we always do on this program, at 615-737-1025. And then what about the options at receiver? Because the Titans seem to think they're okay at that position. We'll get to that coming up next, and your phones, of course. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in on today's show. And let me tell everybody out there, if you are running out of ideas for Mother's Day, tune into Robby and Rex Road all week so that you have a chance to win a $100 gift card to a Moment's Peace Day Spa. Winners will be put into a grand prize drawing for a $1,000 gift card and a pair of tickets to see the Dave Matthews Band at Bridgestone Arena on May 26th. Stillman and Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
They played tough. They came back, and they still lost.
And your source for Nashville sports.
Yes, you want to have a fire sale, but who's going to buy those players?
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
When the game goes into overtime. But the game goes into overtime. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Pick up Bud Light at your local convenience store today. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willie Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity lines, car loan. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Hi, I'm Jamie Whistles for Souls, a global nonprofit based in Nashville that provides shoes and clothing to people across the world. We're joining forces with 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament on June 7th at the Hermitage Golf Course. A portion of the proceeds from the tournament will provide new shoes to children experiencing homelessness right here in Nashville. I hope you'll join us for an afternoon of fellowship and fun, all in support of a great cause. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
Your Game Center update.
This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. This is Nick Heiser. The President's Trophy curse continues in the NHL as the Bruins fell 4-3 in Game 7 to the Florida Panthers last night. The last 10 teams who have finished the season as President Trophy winners have not won a Stanley Cup or passed the second round. Here's the game winner on the Panthers radio network.
Along the near boards, Bennett finds it to the circle for Hagee. Shot top shelf, he scores! Carter Verhaeghe top shelf, and the Panthers win it in overtime! The Panthers stun the Bruins in Boston, and the Panthers are moving on to round 2.
And a coaching change has come in the NHL today as the Calgary Flames have relieved head coach Daryl Sutter from his duties. Calgary missed the postseason this year after putting up 93 points in the regular season. And the Tennessee Titans completed the draft over the weekend, making 6 selections. General Manager Rand Carthon picked up all offensive personnel, with offensive lineman Peter Skoronski and quarterback Will Levis highlighting the first two selections by the Two-Tone Blue. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 1025 and 1063.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Monday draft reaction day here on the program, and the Titans did not take a wide receiver until the 7th round. So that does not count as addressing the need at wide receiver. And they have a humongous need at wide receiver. Right now, Nick Westbrook-Akine is the number 2 wide receiver on this team. And he is no better than a 4 in the NFL. And he's your number 2. And don't give me that Scarbini that they signed from the Texans, who started 7 games last year. He started 7 games for the Texans. It's Treylon Burks and a bunch of nothing. And that's what they have. And the Titans know this. Like, the Titans know that receiver is an issue. And after the draft was over, Mike Vrabel addressed that they're not done at the receiver position. Here's what he said.
I understand why you like Colton and know you brought in one free agent, but for the things you've talked about the wide receiving core, is that enough turnover to get out of that group? What you've talked about?
Going into Monday, it will be, yeah, and we're going to continue to explore and find ways to improve our roster and make it as competitive as possible. So on Monday, it will be. We felt good if, for us to add a receiver, we would have come far off our board at those certain levels, and that's what I'm happy about. You guys are going to trust us. We're going to put players in here that are going to help us win.
That last part kind of goes back to the previous question. You can find ways to improve your roster. Free agency's over and the draft's over. Aren't those the places to improve your
free
roster?
agency's not. They're going to let us sign free agents Monday. They will. Chad will. Rand will. They'll let us sign free agents on Monday. Free agency is going to go all the way up until the season starts. There'll be players that are on other teams that will become available Monday. Take a look. It'll be real large waiver wire. We'll scour that. We'll continue to look for trade possibilities and opportunities. Chad and Vin will help us with the salary cap, find ways to open up salaries so that we can potentially sign other players. There's been a pretty good process here, and I'm excited about it.
Trust us. Vrabel says you all will trust us to get this figured out. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not sure I do trust them to do this, but Vrabel's not technically wrong that free agency isn't over. Trades aren't over, but the bulk of them are. Brandon Cooks is gone. Alan Lazard is gone. Jacoby Myers is gone. Juju Smith-Schuster is gone. All of the guys worth having on some level or another, and none of those guys are great, but all of the guys worth having, for the most part, are gone. So here's what the Titans, here are their options going forward. They can go the free agent route, and they can sign an old guy who is old and is probably not good anymore. Randall Cobb, Julio Jones, T.Y. Hilton, again, old guys that used to be good who are not good anymore. Something that if you added them in 2015, boy, you'd have something special. Unfortunately, it's not 2015. That's the first option. The second option is to sign a younger guy who, unlike the older guys, is not good and has never been good. So Rashard Higgins or Brashard Perriman, guys that have bounced around the league but are on the right side of 30. You can sign those guys. I'm not sure any of the options I just listed are better than Nick Westbrook-Akine, which pains me to say. Then there's the trade route. The Titans could trade for a guy who is seriously overpaid by his current club and eat the cost and suck it up because they need a body at wide receiver, like Corey Davis at $12.5 million, or Russell Gage in Tampa Bay at $10 million. If you want Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, they may give them to you. They may not. They may charge you an arm and a leg for that. You call for Russell Gage, they'll gladly give him to you if you'll take the $10 million salary. So you'd have to do something like that. Or they could trade a real asset for a guy who may be pushed out. Tyler Boyd in Cincinnati is a name that makes sense to me. He makes $10.5 million. And because Cincinnati selected 2 receivers in this draft, I saw that as a beacon that Tyler Boyd may be available. Because this offseason, Cincinnati will have to pay T. Higgins, who they said they're going to pay, and Joe Burrow, who they said they're going to pay, and neither guy is going to be cheap. And Cincinnati is going to pay Jamar Chase. So the salary cap is fake, but the budget is not. And Cincinnati is not the richest team in the league, which means Tyler Boyd could be available. And Tyler Boyd is a good receiver, and he's better than all the other guys I've mentioned. The problem is with Cincinnati, trade you Tyler Boyd. And if you were to make a deal for Tyler Boyd, you'd have to give up an asset in next year's class, most likely. And in order to do that, you've already given up your 3rd for Levis, and you've already given up your 5th for Dennis Daly in next year's class. So you only have 5 picks. You can't keep subtracting picks from next year's draft. But that could be kind of again, if somebody gets pushed out because they make too much money. And I'm not sure where that's going to come, but then you have to hope that that team wants to deal with you and not somebody else, because if Cincinnati were to say Tyler Boyd's available, there'd be a lot of teams that would be lining up for Tyler Boyd. And then the other option is they could trade for an underproductive younger guy that a team has soured on. For instance, the Baltimore Ravens have signed Odell Beckham, and they drafted, who was it? Was it Zay Flowers they drafted last week? I know they drafted one of the receivers. I think it was Zay Flowers. So they've drafted Zay Flowers, and they've signed Odell Beckham. So does that mean that they've soured on Rashad Bateman? But again, you'd have to pay something in next year's draft in order to acquire Rashad Bateman. And the reason that they've soured on this guy is that he might not be very good. Those are your choices. None of them are overly appealing. Now, the one thing where I will give them a little bit of grace, just a little bit, is I think that what happened was Levis being available changed their plans. When you look at who they brought in on official visits, the top 30, you'll see a lot of 2nd and really 3rd round receivers that the Titans brought in, 3rd and 4th round guys. And I think they thought they were going to take one of those guys. But then when Will Levis was still available, they said, well, we like Levis. We think Levis was a possible contender for the 11th overall pick. So now we can walk away with Skoronski and Levis, but then we're going to have to figure out wide receiver. Whereas they thought they were going to go into this draft and they were either going to go quarterback early and then go receiver and guard and things like that. But they love Skoronski. I mean, they must think this guy's headed to the Hall of Fame. And so I think that what they decided to do was bite the bullet now and suck it up and figure it out one way or another, which I don't totally trust them to do, but to figure out receiver because they got the quarterback and the guard with the first 2 picks. 2 guys, they didn't think they could get both of them, and they did. Now, that doesn't excuse the injured running back in the 3rd round, which I still need more of an explanation on. Like, I need to know what he's going to do. But I understand once they got to Levis how they ended up not taking a receiver. But they needed to be more proactive in free agency so that it wasn't the end of the world when this happened. Let's go to Philip. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Philip is up next on the draft class. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Philip?
Hey, what's up, Jared, man? Thanks for taking my call. Sure. Okay, I got a couple of hits right here, a couple of points. First of all, I think the Titans whiffed on the draft. I think they got flustered after they didn't get Stroud. They took the O-lineman, which is fine. I don't mind them taking him. That's a need. I think he'll come in and play. Now, if he's not a Hall of Famer, that's a bad pick because even if he's a Pro Bowler, okay, anybody's making a Pro Bowl these days. So he has to be a Hall of Famer for them to justify some of that pick. With us taking Levis, I didn't mind the pick if he fell to us in the second round, which he probably wouldn't have. But I think that messed, like you just said, it messed them up from getting a receiver because that gave away our third-round pick. Well, we moved down off the third-round pick, and where we would have been picking at, we would have had the chance to get receivers because they went right after the pick that we would have had that we gave to Arizona, which kind of, I think, threw us off there. This is my problem. We can't blame Derrick Henry. We can't blame Tannehill when we come out and our receivers can't get separation. And Vrabel has said this whole time since the season ended, he's been harping on we're going to play faster, we're going to be faster. But where did they get faster at receiver? They didn't get nobody that's really going to threaten anything. And I hear you saying, okay, it's not over, it's not over.
Well, he's saying that. I'm not saying. I mean,
okay.
There are options. I just don't think they're great options. But he is the one saying it's not over. It's not over.
And I give you this: if you saying right now the Titans receiver as is, would you take Ohio State receiving core as of last year fully healthy over this Titans receiving core?
I mean, I would take Ohio State's receiving core every year. Thank you, Philip. I would take Ohio State's receiving core every year over the Titans receiving core. I would take Ohio State's receiving core almost over every single team of the NFL's receiving core, except for like Cincinnati and Minnesota. Yeah, I mean, like there's how many teams have better receiving cores than Ohio State does every year? They get the 5 stars every single year. Them in Alabama. And Alabama, the receivers the last couple of years, it hadn't been the same. So I don't think that's totally fair. Again, I hear you on the receiver thing. And I don't know what they're going to do to sharpen it out. I think when they sat there and they made the trade for Levis, and he's right, if they hadn't swapped spots in the third, before the run on the third-round receivers went, the Titans would have been able to take one. The problem is that is the exchange that they made for Levis. And so they decided at that point in time, and they had the whole day to decide that it was worth it. 615-737-1025. More of your phones on this, 615-737-1025. Plus, the one thing that I have a hard time wrapping my head around when it comes to the decision to take Levis and trade up for Levis and really to invest your future in Levis. Now, I have a hard time understanding this from their perspective and what they've done. And I'll explain what that is next. Stillman and Company. 615-737-1025, 1025, 1063 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Join Robby and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Robby, Stanley here, and season tickets for the Preds 2023-24 season are on sale now. Preds will be celebrating their 25th anniversary throughout next season. Full half and quarter season plans are available, and you can join the Loyal Legion today and receive the best seat locations at the best pricing and up to 50% off discounts on concessions throughout the season and more. Plus priority access to the 2023 NHL Draft and awards, which are hosted right here in Nashville coming up this summer. Check it out at NashvillePredators.com/season tickets.
You don't have just an ordinary mom in your life. She's the best. Her work never stops. Her sacrifices are many. Her love is unfailing. This Mother's Day, Genesis Diamonds invites you to join us in celebrating and appreciating the mothers in our lives. Stop in and let one of our trusted advisors help you find a special, meaningful gift. Layering necklaces, stackable rings, eternity bands, pearls, elegant diamond pendants, and of course, stunning diamond earrings. Great Mother's Day ideas for any budget. There's no doubt we love Mom, but sometimes a little extra appreciation goes a long way as a thank you for helping us through challenges, making sacrifices, and always putting the family first. So whether it's her first Mother's Day or her 60th, Mom deserves a gift that's anything but ordinary. And at Genesis, that's our specialty. Exquisite rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, heirloom pieces. Timeless gifts of jewelry that she can enjoy and cherish for decades to come, and always be reminded of how special she is to the family. Genesis Diamonds, online at genesisdiamonds.net.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Hey, Ray Jeter here with Harness. Are you looking to take ownership in a position that will support your growth and development? We are an excavation and site utilities contractor. Several things set us apart from our competition, but we take the most pride in the professional development of our people. We have multiple openings for operators, pipe layers, and laborers. Our pay and benefits are second to none, including our 401k program. Apply today at selectharness.com. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game and on Instagram at 1025 The Game Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah, and like us on Facebook, too. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With Levis being available at 11 and you guys didn't take him, but then trading up to get him, was that just a value perspective, or like is that someone that you earmarked as your quarterback in the future?
It's a value thing. Again, he's a player that, you know, had we wanted to choose him at 11, we most certainly could have. Like we talked about last night, didn't expect for, you know, Peter to be there. And he was a guy that we, you know, highly coveted, so we were able to make that move. And, you know, happy that we were able to move up, you know, to get a player like Will. So, again, just playing the board. We were just talking on the way here. It's we're playing the board game. We're rolling the dice and playing the board. So that's pretty much.
Not been there? How high was Will at that point on your board?
I mean, had Peter not been there, you know, Will was amongst the conversation. So that's really all I can give on that right now.
There you go. That was Rand Carthon on Friday. And I got to tell you, that's not a glowing endorsement of we love this guy that we're investing our careers into. And that makes me a little nervous. It really does. I like Levis. And if they had taken him at 11, I would not have complained about it. And so the fact that they got him at 33 should be a good thing. But the one thing that I worry about with the Titans is and this comes from the inexperience on Rand Carthon's part, and what I think is really not Mike Vrabel's lane that he's merged into, which is the understanding the big picture of how this all works. Quarterbacks are not value picks. The idea of saying, okay, well, we took him at 33 and that was good value, so that makes it easier on us if he fails. That's not how this works. He's the quarterback of the future. And if he's not good, you're fired. Now, they won't, on the day that they fire you, they won't say it's because Will Levis didn't develop into our starting quarterback, but it will be because you've lost too many games because you don't have a starting quarterback. And I can go through all the examples recently of teams that have invested highly into quarterbacks, it having not worked, and every single one of those guys gets fired. Whether it's Vic Fangio in Denver, when Drew Lock didn't work out, whether it's the investment that Denver put into Russell Wilson, whether it's, Cliff Kingsbury just got fired in Arizona because the Kyler Murray thing hasn't worked out. I mean, we can go over all of these guys. He's the quarterback of the future. And there's no way around it, in my opinion. But they obviously didn't love him that much, because I cannot imagine looking at your team and saying, we love this quarterback. We love him. We'll do whatever it takes to get him. And then not get that guy, which is what happened to them on Thursday with C.J. Stroud. I mean, they probably love Skoronski. He is exactly what I think Vrabel's looking for. A tough, physical, mean, no-nonsense, professional football player. Like, yes. But again, it wasn't we love Peter Skoronski so much we're going to trade everything in our kitty in order to go up to number 3 and take him like we were willing to do with C.J. Stroud. So you loved C.J. Stroud. Now, when you get to 11, if Will is in consideration as a quarterback, that means that you really don't love him that much. If you loved him, then it wouldn't be a discussion. It would be, we take the quarterback, because everybody knows that you win games because of the quarterback. You don't win games because of a guard. If you won games because of a guard, Indianapolis would win games, but they don't, because they don't have a quarterback. I mean, you have to have guards. You have to have tackles, but nobody wins because of their guards and their tackles. So the idea that they could like a guard more than they could like a quarterback and take the guard and then be able to take the quarterback later and say, well, it was a value pick. Dude, I don't know if you guys understand the ramifications of the pick that you just made. If he does not work out, if you do not end up loving him, you are fired. End of story. Like that, this is the NFL. That's how it works. So it's obvious to me that they didn't love Will Levis. Well, where's that put them now? This is not like Malik, where you get a do-over if it doesn't work out. And the guy who drafted Malik got fired. So this is not like Malik. This guy, this is high value. This is the 33rd pick in the draft. That is traditionally the first pick in the second round. It was the second pick in the second round this year because Miami forfeited their first round pick. But you obviously didn't love Levis enough to trade back into the first round in order to get him and have the 5th-year option on him. So how much did you love Will Levis? Would you have taken Will at 11 if Peter wasn't there? He would have been in the discussion. That is not, again, a very emphatic show of affection. That's like Will might be good, so let's take him and see what happens. You take him and see what happens. It doesn't work out, you're fired. Chase is up next on Will Levis. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Chase.
Hey, man, I appreciate you taking my call. How are you?
Good.
So, yeah, man, I don't hate the Will Levis pick. Like you said, there's not really such thing as value when it comes to quarterbacks because you're dependent on this guy to be your franchise. So, my question to you, how long do you think Tannehill's leash will be this year? Do you think they ride it out with him until he sort of lets them down, or do you think they're going to try and force Levis in almost right away?
So I don't know the answer to that, and I don't think it did Vrabel any favors or the discussion about what to do when he said, tomorrow Ryan will be the starter, but, not really naming Ryan Tannehill as the starting quarterback. Let me ask you that question, Chase. How do you view Will Levis? Do you think he'll be the starter this year?
I don't hate the idea of him, trying to learn a thing or two from Tannehill. Obviously, I think it'll elevate Tannehill's game if he has, feels like he has pressure behind him. I know he's no Tom Brady by any means, but I know Brady when they brought in Jimmy G, I feel like it elevated Brady's play. It made him feel like there was something to fight for out there, and that's sort of the same kind of situation I feel like we're in right now. You talked about our receiver room being very short-staffed. I feel like we're hand-in-hand with, New England right now. We don't have those guys that can go out there and, create separation. I don't think it matters who we bring in at quarterback right now until we address that.
So I appreciate your call. I mean, I do think it matters who you bring in at quarterback. You bring in Mahomes, even with these guys, you can still win. But I would argue this as far as what should happen to Tannehill next year. It is impossible for me to tell you what should happen in December of next year. It's impossible. They can't tell you what's going to happen in December of next year. Now, you can prepare for December of next year, but there's no way to know what's going to happen. This is how I would enter the season. I would enter training camp with Ryan Tannehill as the starting quarterback, and this would be my plan. Ryan Tannehill would be the starting quarterback. Malik Willis would be the third-string quarterback who might not make the team. In fact, I think I'm entering training camp with the idea that Malik's not going to make the team. Will Levis would be the backup. And if Will Levis showed me enough in training camp that I felt comfortable with him playing in an NFL game and it not hurting his development, then Will Levis is the backup. Just like Patrick Mahomes was the backup to Alex Smith. People forget about this, but Ben Roethlisberger was not supposed to start as a rookie. In fact, Tommy Maddox was their starter. Tommy Maddox played in the playoff game here and almost beat the Titans in 2002. They drafted Ben Roethlisberger in 2004, and Ben was supposed to set the bench, but Tommy Maddox got hurt. Ben came in, and they didn't lose any games, so Ben was the quarterback. Justin Herbert sat the bench. Tyrod Taylor got hurt. Justin Herbert was the quarterback. That's how I'd approach this year. And it all depends on Levis. Will Levis is right now, and people are not going to want to hear this. You know what? We'll get to this on the other side. 615-737-1025. You are not going to want to hear this about Will Levis, but it is the truth. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. That's right. I love my friends at Hiller. If you know your home needs an air conditioning replacement, do not wait until it breaks down. You do not want to be sweating in your home. And I know this because I went through that last year. And it was about 3 or 4 days where the upstairs of my house was like 97 degrees. And finally, when Hiller came out right away to fix it, you know, they made it much, much easier on me. But man, was it freaking hot. You do not want to be put in that position. For me, I've got an upstairs and a downstairs. So I was able to be downstairs for the day that it took for Hiller to get out there. And thank God Hiller did a tremendous job because I'm upstairs all day in my house. But you don't want to be in that spot. This month, get a free UV light and free electronic air cleaner when you buy select new HVAC systems. Or get a whole home water filtration for just $59 a month. Or get a new whole home generator for just $139 a month. Call Hiller's Heatwave Heroes to save the day. Visit happyhiller.com to book. Those are my guys, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
The offseason is underway for the Predators. But don't worry. We'll keep you covered with all of the happenings in Smashville.
Wouldn't it be a great party if we could win a cup?
What does new GM Barry Trotz have in store?
We're going to make good decisions. We're going to develop our players.
We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Tuning into the baseball game, monitoring the incoming storm, catching your favorite talk show. These are just a few of the reasons more than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio each month. And did you know AM radio is the backbone of the emergency alert system, keeping us safe in dangerous times? It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-587-5063. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-587-5063 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-587-5063 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-587-5063.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike three.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
Hey Nashville, this is Penny Hardaway, University of Memphis coach. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
What are you doing with Will Levis with Ryan Tannehill, 35 years old, in the final year of his
career? I think both the quarterbacks we just talked about, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, it would behoove them to sit back behind a veteran, to get their feet wet. Don't force them in too early and let them learn, because both of them have tremendous ability. But I think him behind Tannehill, give him an opportunity to maybe learn decision-making, because that's an issue with him.
That was Rick Stillman, former NFL general manager, saying, I think it would behoove Will Levis if he sat behind Tannehill, which I'm for. But here's an inconvenient truth for the Titan fans out there that hate Will Levis. And I would say going into the draft, 75% of you hated Will Levis. I think now, because he's on your team, and we've seen this a lot where you love somebody and then they cut the guy and then you hate him. And in this case, you hate somebody, and then you pick him up, and then you love him. I don't know what the official tally is. I cannot give you a percentage on how I think people feel about Levis, but I think it's a lot less than 75% that hate him. It may be less than 50% now that hate him. I don't know. But here's the inconvenient truth for the Tennessee fans out there that are in disbelief that the Titans took Will Levis ahead of Hendon Hooker because they think Will Levis stinks. Everything that this organization does from right now on forward has to be done with Will Levis in mind. Priority number one of the Tennessee Titans is what is in the best interest of the development of Will Levis. Is that not incredible to think about? Now, if I told you that everything the Indianapolis Colts should do is circled around making sure Anthony Richardson harnesses that unbelievable talent and becomes a superstar quarterback, you would all say, oh, yeah, I mean, obviously, for sure. But for some reason, maybe it's because Levis went in the second round. Maybe it's because you all don't like Levis. Maybe it's because Tannehill is here, whereas there in Indianapolis, it's Gardner Minshew. There's probably this feeling that, no, the Titans, and this would be a Vrabel thing to do, the Titans just need to add Levis in there, treat him like anybody else, and build their team, and on they go. That is not how the NFL works. Whatever is in the best interest of Will Levis is what needs to happen. So when somebody says, Jared, do you think Will Levis should play this year? My answer to you is what's in the best interest of Will Levis. Because if Will Levis needs to sit on the bench to learn the game, to relax a little bit, to see how a professional quarterback does it, to learn all of the intricacies of being a quarterback in the NFL, then he should sit on the bench. If what's best for Will Levis, because he comes from this offense that he ran at Kentucky, if what's best for Will Levis is for Will Levis to play and gain the experience, then Will Levis plays. And it doesn't matter where you picked him. Jordan Love got picked in the first round, and there is nothing that the Green Bay Packers have ever done that is in the best interest of Jordan Love. In fact, I think the reason they picked Jordan Love was because they wanted to motivate Aaron Rodgers. And for 2 years, they did. And he won the MVP both times. But everything Green Bay did, whether it was re-signing Randall Cobb or keeping all the Aaron buddies together, all of that was done for Aaron. The contract they gave Aaron, it was all about Aaron and winning right now, and it had nothing to do with Jordan Love. Well, right now, you don't have that option. Everything you do has to be what's in the best interest of Will Levis's development, because he is your future. You only have 5 picks in next year's draft. You used a third in order to acquire the pick. You use your third next year in order to jump up and take Will Levis this year. You used your 5th, I believe, on Dennis Daly. So you've only got 5 picks in next year's class. Will Levis is the quarterback. Henry and Tannehill are going to have one last go at it this year, I would assume. But if you get to training camp and Will Levis proves to you that he's ready to play and he just needs the experience, and while Tannehill may give you a better chance to win games right now, you feel as the Titans that you would be best off by playing Levis and getting the experience, then that's what you do. Because again, Will Levis has undeniable talent. We can all agree with that. Now, it's not Joe Burrow talent. It's not Andrew Luck talent. But it's undeniable. I mean, he's got the size. He's got the arm. He's got the athleticism. He's got the ability. That does not make you Dan Marino. But it gets you a lot closer to being Dan Marino than I am. It gets you a lot closer there than Chad Henne or Blaine Gabbert ever were to Dan Marino. So he's got all of this talent. Well, whatever it takes to get that talent to pop so that he can be like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Justin Herbert or a Dan Marino, whatever it may be, that's what you do. This is very similar to when the Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson in 2018. Now, they jumped back into the first round, and they took Lamar Jackson, and Joe Flacco started at the beginning of that season. But ultimately, everything the Ravens did from that point forward was for Lamar Jackson. The offensive coordinator that they hired was for Lamar Jackson. The picks they used outside of Lamar, it was for Lamar Jackson. That's where you are with Will Levis. And I know people hate that. I know it. But that's just the reality of where the Titans sit today. And again, like I said, they took Peter Skoronski, who I hope is going to play tackle, but he may be a guard. Imagine taking a guard over a guy who now you have to cater to as far as the key element of your organization is concerned. That just doesn't seem very bright. But that's the position that they're in. Texter texts into the text line. Logan says the Titans are lucky that Levis was there in the second round. Imagine he goes somewhere else in the first round because the Titans passed on him, and then Tannehill doesn't want to come back for the 2024 season after his contract is up, and you're forced to throw somebody out to the Wolves. Well, I will say this. The Titans would have acquired, some kind of guy who's a backup now who can start in the NFL, and you wouldn't win a lot of games, so they would have taken a quarterback next year or whatever. But now that they've gone quarterback, Levis is the guy. And you may be feeding Levis to the Wolves next year. I hope you're not. I hope he's ready. But that may be what you do. Brent says, does Will Levis have the highest floor and lowest ceiling of the quarterbacks taken in the first couple of rounds? No and no. The highest ceiling belongs to Anthony Richardson, and I think the lowest floor belongs to C.J. Stroud. And I'm not a Stroud guy, but I think he's got the lowest floor. I am worried about Bryce Young's size. It's amazing how many people act like that's not a big deal. We can talk about all the things that you don't like about Will Levis, right? Whether it's statistical from the interceptions he threw, whether it's, philosophical that you don't like the fact that Kentucky didn't win more games, whether it's just the fact that the guy puts mayonnaise in his coffee and you don't like it. And we can talk about that all we want. And we can say, well, I don't like this decision that he made in the Georgia game. And I don't like this interception that he threw in this. And I don't like this. And you can say whatever you want. You cannot get over the fact that Bryce Young is tiny. And I cannot get over the fact that one quarterback under 200 pounds in the history of the NFL has made it to the Hall of Fame, and that was Fran Tarkenton. And again, Fran Tarkenton played 50 years ago. And the guys on defense were not as big as they are now. That bothers me. So I think the safest pick is C.J. Stroud. I think the highest ceiling is Anthony Richardson. That doesn't mean that Will Levis can't be good. And also another thing about this, just because other guys win in this draft does not mean that they will be good. Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold were the first two quarterbacks taken in 2018, and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have been much better. It also doesn't mean that there was only one good quarterback, so that if Richardson's really good, it doesn't mean that Levis can't be good. Again, in 83, Elway went number 1. He's in the Hall of Fame. Todd Blackledge was the second quarterback taken. He does college games on ESPN. Jim Kelly was the third quarterback taken. He's in the Hall of Fame. Ken O'Brien was the fourth quarterback taken. And then Dan Marino was fifth, and he's in the Hall of Fame too. 615-737-1025. James in Clarksville is up next on Will Levis. What's up, James?
Hey, man. I personally liked our draft. It's a little bit now, a little bit later. We only got $10 million tied up in Will Levis for the duration of his contract. And we can move on at any point.
No, if you do, you're fired.
Well, I mean, pay me for 4 years because it's a 5-year contract that Rand has. But you only use a second-round pick on him. Second pick is entitled to $9.8 million over the duration of the contract.
So I don't know how much money Dylan Radins made. Thank you for your call, James. I have no idea how much money Dylan Radins has made. I do know that John Robinson was fired in part because Dylan Radins didn't work out. That was a second-round pick. The idea that you can take your quarterback of the future in the second round, fail, and say, well, we'll just move on to the next guy, that's not how the NFL works. And I don't understand this. Coaches get second chances. General managers don't. The Atlanta Falcons had two good teams, like two different good sets of good teams under Thomas Dimitroff, the general manager there in Atlanta. They had the first group that got to the NFC title game. Matt Ryan was the quarterback. Mike Smith was the coach. They had Roddy White, and Julio was young at the time, and Harry Douglas, and they lost to Harbaugh and Kaepernick in San Francisco in the NFC title game. The second group was obviously the Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, that crew that got to the Super Bowl and blew the 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. And so he had two separate sets of good teams. Thomas Dimitroff got fired in Atlanta. Nobody ever talks about Thomas Dimitroff when it comes to a general manager job. Dan Quinn, who is the coach of those teams, has gone on to be the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, and every time a job comes open, there's, what about Dan Quinn? What about Dan Quinn? So I do not understand why general managers don't get second chances, but they don't. And so if you're Rand Carthon, you may, hey, pay me for 5 years, fine, but then you're going to be sitting right here doing radio because they do not give second chances to general managers. Just like Rick Spielman is doing radio, just like Mark Dominic is doing radio. And I think both of those guys should get second chances. I think they're both very bright. I think they're good GMs. And there's a lot that you learn from the first time as a GM to the second time. But it's just not how it works. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. So there was something that happened or that was opined on with Will Levis that I'm not sure is a big deal to me. But it's a big deal to the football people. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 through the game.
The crowd is standing on its feet.
It's in the hole. It's in the hole.
Join 1025 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament, benefiting Souls for Souls, June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course. Put your team together and come play with athletes, musicians, and other local celebs.
See the ball.
Support a great cause and have loads of fun. Plus, you'll have the chance to win awesome prizes. Sign up to play, sponsor, or donate at thegamenashville.com/golf.
Laying waste to your town. Mastodon. Gojira. The Mega Monsters Tour. This Tuesday night at Nashville Municipal Auditorium. With special guest, Lord Ashore. Tickets on sale now at LiveNation.com. Total sensory overload. Mastodon and Gojira.
You don't have just an ordinary mom in your life. She's the best. Her work never stops. Her sacrifices are many. Her love is unfailing. This Mother's Day, Genesis Diamonds invites you to join us in celebrating and appreciating the mothers in our lives. Stop in and let one of our trusted advisors help you find a special, meaningful gift. Layering necklaces, stackable rings, eternity bands, pearls, elegant diamond pendants, and of course, stunning diamond earrings. Great Mother's Day ideas for any budget. There's no doubt we love Mom, but sometimes a little extra appreciation goes a long way as a thank you for helping us through challenges, making sacrifices, and always putting the family first. So whether it's her first Mother's Day or her 60th, Mom deserves a gift that's anything but ordinary. And at Genesis, that's our specialty. Exquisite rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, heirloom pieces. Timeless gifts of jewelry that she can enjoy and cherish for decades to come, and always be reminded of how special she is to the family. Genesis Diamonds, online at genesisdiamonds.net.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
When you order food for work on EasyCater.com, we've got your back. Real humans are here to help with your order every step of the way, making sure everything goes right, even behind the scenes without you knowing. Confirming and double confirming with the restaurant that everything is on track. If there's a problem,
thanks for calling EasyCater.
Call us anytime, day or night, and we'll answer in seconds. We're right here with 100,000 restaurants, working hard to ensure the food arrives on time and is ordered. Order 24/7 at EasyCater.com.
Bon appetit. Take some Titans.
Derrick Henry.
Some breads.
Roman Yossi.
Even some hoops.
Light fires. Wow.
Put it in a blender. And what do you have? Chase and Michelle.
Pretty incredible.
Call or text and weigh in.
The fastest 2 hours in sports radio. Weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
Where did you end up watching the draft tonight, Will? And maybe what went into that after all the pomp and circumstance last night? What was tonight like?
It was crazy. We had a big family gathering planned tomorrow morning. Like obviously, was thinking there was a good shot that I would go yesterday. So the only reason I didn't stay is because I couldn't get back home in time if I were to have left tomorrow. So ended up coming back today. The flight was supposed to be at 9. It ended up taking off until about 12. Traffic on the way home from Newark. I live in Connecticut. I literally walked through the door as my name got called. And all my bags, all of our luggage. I don't know. There'll probably be some videos at some point that my parents took of me when I got the call. When I was a crying mess, but it was so funny. We're all in our airport clothes and very different atmosphere compared to, everyone getting dressed up with the nice suits and dresses last night. But I mean, this is what was meant to be, and I was ecstatic to get the call.
There you go. That was Will Levis talking about how he had just walked into the door. Now, I'm not sure that whole story actually makes a lot of sense, because if he had been drafted number 1, let's say he had been drafted by the Texans, right? So he takes the team's jet at that point, goes to Houston, where they have all the media availability on Friday, and then I would guess flies out Saturday to go back to his family gathering that Saturday morning. Maybe he flies out Friday night. Maybe now, because he's the number 2 pick in the draft, he can afford a private jet, so it's a lot easier. I don't know. Not sure I totally buy that, but okay, whatever. They had a family gathering, so he ended up leaving the draft after being humiliated on national TV Thursday night, which is what happened. And I felt bad for him, but look, man, that's how the draft works. I was listening to NFL radio on Sirius XM, and they have, a bunch of guys who have been there and done that. Rick Neuheisel, you all know, coach. He was Derek's coordinator in Baltimore. He was the coach out there in the Pac-12 for all those years. He's on CBS now doing SEC games, the post-game and halftime and everything else there. Pat Kerwin, who was an executive in the NFL. And listen to them when they talk about Will Levis leaving the draft and how that bothered him.
But he should have been here. Yeah. To me, to show that he can handle all the good and bad that goes with a high-profile position, he should have been here today.
It's, front office view of that is you went home. What are you going to do when you have a press conference after you throw 4 interceptions? Not want to go out there?
Yeah. Well, case in point, how about Trevor Lawrence in that playoff game? Throws the 4 interceptions against the Chargers, and how he responded in the second half is all you need to know. That's what you want your quarterback to do, like Trevor Lawrence did last year.
Short memory.
Yeah.
I mean, they seem pretty upset about the fact that Will Levis left the draft. Ian, do you have a problem with Will Levis leaving the draft after hearing what those guys who have been there and done that had to say?
I guess I could see where some of those football guys have a problem with it. It's hard to know without, what he said about the logistical things. He was having some type of party, and I guess if you're not going to go in the first round, you would assume you would go the next day. But at what point? And do people still hang out in, the green room in the second and third round?
Well, Brian Branch came out there.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about Levis, is that whatever his plans were, as far as how they were getting home, they didn't know how they were going to get home. I mean, think about this, right? They didn't know where they were coming from. So to say, well, we had plans Saturday morning, you don't know where you're going to be Friday. I mean, hell, a team like the Arizona Cardinals could have taken you. They probably wouldn't have, but they could have. What if the Raiders took you out in Vegas? You're telling me that you're going to be able to do all the media stuff on Friday and then still be back to Connecticut in time for your Saturday family gathering? I'm not sure that totally adds up to me. And I think the connotations that Pat Kerwin and Coach Neuheisel had right there are that's a sign that he's soft. Now, what I did on Saturday morning after hearing that on Friday night is I watched the press conference that he had after that Tennessee game. And he was not great in the Tennessee game, but his team was really worse around him than he was in the Tennessee game. But I watched the press conference to see what his reaction was like after that kind of humiliating defeat on national TV against a rival on the road, the way as embarrassing as that was. And I thought Levis handled himself with the utmost level of maturity and responsibility, and so that I like. So maybe Levis is telling the truth that he had a big family gathering, but I don't know how logistically you can make plans for Saturday morning when you don't know where you're going to be on Friday night. And so then it was like, well, we had to leave the draft to do that. I mean, really? Look, they think it's a big deal. I'm not sure I think it's a big deal. I didn't think it was a big deal until they said it was a big deal. But then I heard his excuse, and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. What if he had been taken in the first round? And they were like, hey, we're having a big reception for you here at the Las Vegas Lunch Club to celebrate you being what you're going to say. Oh, no. You got our family gathering in Connecticut. But I guess that's his business. Craig is up next here on the program. Thank you for calling, and thank you for waiting. What's up, Craig?
Hey, Gerald. Yeah, often when I listen to your show, I get a little aggravated, but
I find myself every day at about 2 o'clock saying, hey, it's time for Gerald Stillman, and I turn the radio on. So
you do know that that's not my name. I know what you're doing, but that is not my name. Continue.
All right. Well, anyway, I appreciate your show. My question is, do you believe that maybe there's any quarterbacks in the latter rounds that was drafted or maybe undrafted quarterback that might be this year's Brock Purdy?
I mean, look, apparently, thank you for the call. Apparently, they were talking about this on the broadcast, that more quarterbacks are being taken than ever before. And I think there is kind of this desire for these teams to see if they can find the next Brock Purdy. Floyd told me that if he had enough picks to do it, he would have taken a quarterback at the end of every draft. Just as a guy, we like this guy, let's bring him in. And if he stinks, he stinks. And if not, then, it's great. And if he's a 6th round and ends up being a backup, great. He told me that was something that he kind of always wanted to do. I'm sure there are a lot of teams that are thinking, hey, let's bring this guy in. Now, let me tell you what shocked me. Stetson Bennett in the 4th round. I saw that and I thought, the Rams? Like the 4th round, again, you're not going to find great players consistently in the 4th round, but you can still find guys that help immediately in the 4th round. You can still find some really good players. I mean, Chigakonkwo was taken in the 4th round. Stetson Bennett? He's undersized. He's not accurate. He doesn't make good decisions with the football. Stetson Bennett in the 4th round.
Feels like a Sean McVay style pick, no?
I know, but that team, they haven't had all these draft choices. So I don't, it's like you need your 4th rounders to play like 2nd rounders because you don't have any 1st rounders, or I don't even know if they had a 2nd rounder. They don't have any picks. And they're taking Stetson Bennett? Maybe it works out. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. A lot of you were upset with your coach and general manager on Friday. Now, I don't think you were upset for the same reasons I was upset. But I will say, Thursday and Friday were not, in my feelings, they were not, this is just me, good days for the coach and the general manager. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Stuck at work without a radio?
Wait a minute. Disastrous.
I hate that.
It's got to be there.
That's okay. Download the Game Nashville app or go to thegamenashville.com and listen live. We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Hi, this is Jamie from Souls for Souls. I hope you can join us on June 7th at Hermitage Golf Course for the 2nd annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament. We've partnered with 102.5 The Game to provide shoes to students experiencing homelessness right here in Nashville. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You want to know how to get better rates, better coverage, and better service on your home and auto insurance? Work with Zander Insurance. I know it's a big promise, but this team delivers. They've been around for almost 100 years and have earned the privilege of representing dozens of insurance companies so they can shop, compare, and find you the best options available. More options mean more savings, and in many cases, better coverage. But it doesn't stop there. Each year, they review your coverage to make sure your rates stay competitive. Nobody else does that. And when it comes to service, just check out their ratings. Xander is one of the top agencies in the industry, and they earned that spot with their commitment to making sure their clients are taken care of like family. That's what sets them apart. Go to Xander.com for quick online quotes or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch that you've been missing.
Now, your Game Center update.
This update brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The NFL draft has come to an end as the Titans took 6 players over the 3-day bonanza. The first 3 picks were offensive lineman Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern, quarterback Will Levis from Kentucky, and running back Tajay Spears out of Tulane. Titans general manager Ran Carthon talked about his first draft class under his new role.
I think we have great people, first and foremost. I think we have really good football players that will all work. They're all going to put in the work. They're all going to come here and hope to live out their dreams of playing in Nissan Stadium on Sundays, and we're excited to have them.
Rookie minicamp for the Titans will get going later this month. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's Game 7 between the Rangers and the Devils tonight. The winner moves on to take on the Hurricanes. In the NBA playoffs, Game 1 between the 76ers and the Celtics tips off tonight, followed by Game 2 between the Suns and the Nuggets. Nashville SC announced today the club mutually agreed to terminate the contract of forward Ake Loba. And don't miss the latest edition of the Commodore Hour starting at 6 o'clock tonight on 94.9 The Fan. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Robby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willie, D-Base.
Stillman and Company.
Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
1025 and 1063.
Cranks it, he scores. On both sides of the one big possession. Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company's delivered right here on 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Boy, people are upset about that Will Levis going home thing. You know, the guys on NFL radio just said, hey, Will Levis should have stayed Friday night for the draft. And Will Levis's excuse was he had a family gathering Saturday morning. And TD sent me a link to the article that Levis had planned all along to leave on Friday after being picked in the first round for the family gathering to celebrate that. And I'm thinking, but wait a minute, wouldn't Will Levis have gone to whatever city drafted him? Like, if Will Levis went number 2 in the draft, he's going to Houston, right? Like, they have the press conference the next day with the guy there every time. So I'm not sure that adds up. Again, like I said, that was their opinion, that they did not like that Will Levis was not there. I didn't even think about it, nor do I really care that much. And like I said, I watched Saturday, the press conference that he did after the Tennessee loss, to see how he would respond after being humiliated, and I thought he handled it with the utmost maturity. But it doesn't make sense that he had this planned all along, when on Friday he would have gone to whatever team drafted him on Thursday night, and he would have had his press conference on Friday. I mean, like, you're not going to – the Houston Texans selected you with the 2nd overall pick. You do all the media that you have to do right there in Kansas City, and then you hop on the owner's jet and you fly to Houston. And when they say, hey, the owner's jet is ready to take you to Houston, you don't say, well, I got to go to, Sheboygan. That's just me. So Thursday and Friday, I thought, as far as the players are concerned, Skoronski, Levis, the running back without the ACL, as far as the players are concerned, we'll know in a couple of years whether or not these guys are any good. You may not like Will Levis because you're a Tennessee fan and you can't believe that they took him over Hendon Hooker, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. He very well could be a very good quarterback in the NFL. We don't know. But I did not think Thursday nor Friday were very pretty for Ran Carthon or Mike Vrabel. Let's start with what happened Thursday, which we documented on this show, which was the Titans were seriously working out a deal with Arizona to move up to the number 3 pick. And the more people I've talked to inside of the league and the more people that I know that know people there say Houston was taking Will Anderson with the 2nd pick until they caught wind that the Titans were going to trade into the 3rd pick for C.J. Stroud. Now, if you think that that was some kind of special operation in order to get the Texans to take the bad quarterback, I mean, I can't help you. I don't think these guys are CIA agents. So however it got out, whether it was Arizona doing the leaking, whether it was you doing the leaking, somehow they knew you wanted to take C.J. Stroud. Arizona didn't know that you wanted to take C.J. Stroud unless you told Arizona that you wanted to take C.J. Stroud. But it was well documented on Thursday that you had a move in place. My understanding is most people believe Will Anderson was going 2 and the Titans were going to trade to 3. And the reason why Will Anderson was going to go 2 is because Houston did not think Tennessee would trade into the 3rd spot. Arizona would turn around and take, Arizona would either turn around and take Tyree Wilson or Paris Johnson. And then Indianapolis would take Levis or Richardson, and they could trade back to 5 with Seattle and take the quarterback. They did not want Arizona to take Will Anderson. Then when they found out that you were going to trade to 3, they had to alter their plans. So whose ever fault it was, when most of the leaking came from Diana Rossini, that makes me think that the leaking came from Vrabel. I don't know for a fact that it came from Vrabel, but I think it probably did. And that's a horrible look. To think about it like this, again, I like Will Levis. I don't love Will Levis. I think they like Will Levis. But I think it's obvious that they don't love Will Levis, or else they wouldn't have taken an offensive lineman over him. If you love a quarterback and you don't have a quarterback of the future, you don't try to get other players on your team before you get the quarterback. You get the quarterback first. So they obviously didn't love him. So they ended up with a quarterback that they liked instead of a quarterback that they loved because somebody couldn't keep their mouth shut. That is not a good look. Whether it was Vrabel, whether it was Carthon, that is not a good look. Then the Titans made 2 controversial selections on Friday. Will Levis, like it or not, is a controversial selection because the guy did not win a lot at Kentucky in the 2nd year. He regressed. He's coming off of a toe injury. He's weird and puts mayonnaise in his coffee, and he threw 10 interceptions last year. And so some people do not like him. So that was a controversial pick. Then they drafted Tajay Spears, the running back out of Tulane, who at the combine, when he had the physical, turned up with no ACL in his knee, a lack of cartilage integrity, and arthritis developing in the knee. It also happens to be at the position in which the Titans have the best player in the league at. So it was confusing to many as to why they'd make these picks. These guys may be great. They may go to the Hall of Fame. I mean, I have no idea. But oftentimes in life, it's not how you act, it's how you react. And so the Titans had a press conference, like every team in the NFL does, after rounds 2 and 3. And the tone of the press conference, the questions were bombarding. You know, why take Levis? How much did you like Levis? Why not trade back for Levis? Why not take Levis at 11? What about Levis's interceptions? Why take the injured running back? Why do this? Why do that? And I understand it's not exactly comfortable to be in that position to answer those questions, but Rand Carthon did something that I am sure he already regrets, which is after answering a question about Tajay Spears, decided to tell the media how they should do their job.
I just want to say something real quick. You know, today, and as yesterday, these kids are living their dreams, right? Having their name called, you know, realizing the dream and being drafted. And I don't want these, you know, interactions between us to always feel like we got to take a negative turn. And, you know, this should be a joyous moment for us to praise these kids. This is a moment these kids are going to see this, you know, and this is a moment for them and their families to rejoice in, you know, because it's only going to happen once, you know. We joked, you know, earlier about, Jim and I joked earlier about me not being drafted, you know what I mean? And that's a moment, you know, in my career I can never get back. Coach was drafted in the 3rd round. That's a moment he'll always remember. So let's keep that in mind, you know, when we're talking about these kids and where they've come from and where, because a lot of these kids have overcome a lot, to get to this point. So let's keep that in mind in moments like this. There'll be other times to critique what they've done. These kids haven't even stepped on the NFL field yet. So let's keep that in mind. This is a moment for them and their families to have something to be proud of and enjoy this moment.
Ay, 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 ay. Do not tell people who have been doing this for 25 plus years how to do their job, especially when you're at the second day of your draft. That was embarrassing. It was incredibly condescending to the media, and it lacked self-awareness. Also, let's not kid ourselves. Do you think Rand Carthon's desire for positivity was really because, man, Will Levis flipped on this interview, this press conference, and he saw people asking about all the interceptions he threw and why he threw them? Probably not. I mean, Will Levis had been humiliated on national TV the day before. I don't think Paul Kuharsky asking a question in the press conference is going to push Levis's feelings in one direction or another. Tajay Spears knows he doesn't have an ACL in his knee. And Ian Rappaport told the whole country right after they took him. So is it really about the players? Is it really about, hey, these kids are going to see these press conferences and, we want it to be positive for them and their families? Is it really about the players? You think that press conference affected Will Levis's life at all? And the answer is no. So I don't think it was really about the kids that made Rand Carthon want to plead with the media for positivity. I think it was his picks. I think it was more about him than it was about the players and the kids. But for him to sit up there and say, guys, these guys have never played. Give me a break. He can't do that. That was a terrible look. That was so embarrassing. And on top of it, if you watch the video of the press conference, when Rand Carthon starts pleading for the media to be positive, Mike Vrabel looks down, and I literally counted it on the stopwatch on my phone. He did not blink for 21.3 seconds. I looked it up. What does it mean when somebody just stares intently but does not blink? It means one of two things. Either they're bored and they're zoning out, or intense anger. I don't think Vrabel was zoning out there. Not only that, Rand Carthon says this. 6 minutes later, out of nowhere, Mike Vrabel drops this after Rand said, hey, let's be positive. This is a big moment in these kids' lives. The lockstep duo, Rand Carthon says, let's be positive. This is a big day in their lives. This is, for them and their families. Here's what Vrabel said 6 minutes later.
If the NFL draft is the best night of their NFL career, they're not going to have a very good career.
Vrabel said that because he couldn't hold it in any longer. So I'm not sure they were seeing eye to eye on that. So between whoever leaked whatever leaked out there on Thursday and the Titans not being able to get the quarterback that they loved and that shenanigans on Friday, I do not think that was a good day for your general manager and your coach. I was mortified as a fan watching that press conference. How hard is it to pick the players and just answer the questions about them? And answer questions about why you didn't take a receiver. And can I ask how difficult it is to just tell the truth? Where'd you have Will Levis? Obviously, he wasn't the best player on your board because you took somebody else over him. You can say, yeah, we really liked Will Levis. You can say that. You can say that he wasn't the top player on your board. You can say that you know about Spears' knee, but you really believe in him. And, you can say that your doctors cleared him if that's in fact what happened. But this we need to be positive. Dude, this is the NFL. This is not butt crack state where the coach can just lock up access if he doesn't like what you say. This is the NFL. And that was embarrassing. I don't care if you're a rookie. I don't care. That was embarrassing. And what happened on Thursday was embarrassing too. Now, I'm going to give Rand a little bit of a pass because Vrabel, when he was a rookie coach, he had some of these moments where, he lectured the media on not reporting about what guys have in their lockers. So it's not like it doesn't happen, but I mean, mortified as a fan by what I saw from the coach and general manager, the hierarchy of the organization on Thursday and Friday. 615-737-1025. We'll get back into your reaction. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. Titans fans are furious with Rand Carthon, and I think I know why, but let me just say this. That is not entirely fair. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah! Woo!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Breaking Benjamin. Live in concert in Franklin. With special guests, Bush. And Another Day Dawns. This Wednesday at First Bank Amphitheater. Get tickets now at livenation.com. For more, visit breakingbenjamin.com. Get tickets now.
Gear up for spring at Coleman Tractor Company with Kubota zero turns and subcompact tractors in stock now and ready to work. Mow, dig, haul, and lift with the Kubota BX23S tractor loader backhoe. Now through June 30th, save up to $2,500 on BX23S models. Visit Coleman Tractor in Paris, Clarksville, Nashville, and White House today. Now through June 30th. See KubotaUSA.com for more information.
Spring. It's a season full of new life and new opportunities to celebrate. Hi, it's Alex Johnson from the Diamond Cellar. From weddings and anniversaries to new babies and graduations, plus everything in between, there's no better place to discover the perfect gift for every occasion than the Diamond Cellar. As a true jeweler, we not only curate the finest selection of luxury jewelry from world-class designers, but we can also create something truly one-of-a-kind just for you. Visit the Diamond Cellar in Green Hills or online at diamondcellar.com.
Men, this is Evan Bass with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, and I've been helping men with sexual health issues for many years. I've seen the pain and anxiety that men walk into the clinic with when erectile dysfunction is affecting them. And I also know the heartache and difficulty it can bring to their partner. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we've been successfully treating men for ED for many years now. We've seen the amazing impacts that those treatments have on a man's confidence and positivity. And we've seen the wonderful things those treatments also do for a man's relationship. That's why I'm pleased to announce that we are now offering the same great services we offer at our Nashville clinic at our new location in Franklin, which will make it much more convenient for those men living south of Nashville to get treated. So call us today and book your appointment at our Midtown location or at our new clinic in Cool Springs. Your first visit is only $99 and includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatment, sex start, results vary.
Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially since you're always growing and changing. Therapy is all about deepening that self-awareness, because sometimes you don't know what you really want until you talk things through. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. Visit BetterHelp.com/score to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/score.
Want to weigh in on the conversation?
It's a brain booster.
Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
We can obviously be transparent. Kentucky was a much different football team in 2021 than what they were in 2022. So if we protect him when he's out there at whatever point, if we don't protect him better than what it was, it's probably going to look the same, just like it is for every quarterback. So we try to look at the really good exposures, the great performances. We try to look at them, what they look like at their worst, and then just try to get, pull the curtain and see what it looks like. But there were some really impressive performances against some big-time defenses in the SEC. Now, there's some decisions that have to be better. We can't put the ball in harm's way, no matter who our quarterback is.
I don't disagree with anything that Mike Vrabel said right there. Not one thing about Will Levis and about Kentucky and about what happened last year. But, boy, that's not going to change the opinion of a lot of people when it comes to Will Levis. And I kept saying, you all hate Will Levis, and if they draft Will Levis, you're going to hate it. Then they drafted an injured running back in the 3rd round with their 3rd pick, and I thought Twitter was going to explode with the hate for Ran Carthon on Friday night. And the one thing I'm going to say about this is, A, we don't know if these picks are any good or not. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I thought Matt Leinart at USC was for sure going to be a great quarterback, and he stunk. So to know if a guy's going to be good or bad, there's no way to know. But if you're mad at Ran Carthon, you should also be mad at Mike Vrabel. And I don't know if Titan fans feel that way. It's almost like the way it's been the last couple of years is everything Vrabel does is good. And everything bad that happens to the Titans is John Robinson's fault or it's Ran Carthon's fault. It's Ran Carthon made that pick or Todd Downing called that play or it's never Vrabel's fault. And that is simply not true with how they are building this organization, the way that they're telling people they're operating. So if you're mad at Ran Carthon for play the game, roll the dice, play the game, or what was it? Roll the dice, play the board, roll the dice, play the board. If you're mad about that, and yes, that's stupid, but I understand what he's saying, you should be mad at Mike Vrabel. Don't be mad at just Ran Carthon. If you don't like the Tajay Spears pick, you should be mad at Mike Vrabel too. And I have to be honest with you, some of the traits, that they drafted were guys that, are really athletic, but apparently were not all that successful in college. The tight end out of Cincinnati apparently has a hard time actually blocking. He has the potential to be a very good blocker from what I read, but he's not actually good at it, and his production slipped off, but he's got the size and the speed and apparently the tackle they drafted from Maryland in the 6th round, I guess he gave up the most sacks according to Pro Football Focus in the Big Ten. But what it is they're looking at certain traits, size, speed, agility, those kind of things. And Vrabel and his staff, because every coach thinks that they can coach up anybody. We can coach them. We can do it. We can do it. And so if you're going to be mad at Ran Carthon, you need to be equally as mad at Mike Vrabel. And I would say that I'm a little bit more mad at Mike Vrabel than I am Ran Carthon because of what happened on Thursday and because I believe, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but this is what I believe today until somebody explains to me otherwise, Vrabel's the one responsible for you not getting the quarterback on Thursday night in C.J. Stroud. That's just my opinion. Again, everything that leaked out to ESPN, the way it leaked out to ESPN, and who at ESPN it leaked out from, in my opinion, points to Vrabel. But you can't just be mad at Ran Carthon. You can't say a pick you like is, Vrabel and Ran are working together, and then a pick you don't like is, that's Ran's fault. That's not how it works. Let's go to Lincoln, who's up next. Phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What's up, Lincoln?
Hey, Jared. I hope you're doing all right. I'm pretty sure this was a stressful weekend, but I just have a couple of quick things I want to say. One, I do see the potential in almost every draft pick we had. I think that, Skoronski, I think is going to be great. And then the other lineman from Maryland, I see kind of what they are expecting out of him, the tight end from Cincinnati and things like that. And I think that Ran Carthon, I'm sorry, I just botched his last name, but our new GM, he picks by high ceiling, which you can do when you're on the 49ers and you already have a lot of guys that are in there and kind of can mentor them and stuff. But I have no faith in all these new coaches we hired because we had below expectations last season. And so I have a little bit of caution with those guys. I do think that they could be good, and I think that they could be a good scheme fit under the right circumstances, but I have my questions. The second thing I want to say is I think the big reason why we didn't take Levis with the 11th pick is that the Titans knew we needed O-linemen. I think a lot of times what happens with GMs is you see teams take other people in the position you need, so you go ahead and draft that position so you're not stuck with the leftovers. Paris Johnson Jr. went off the board at 6. Darnell Wright went off at 10. And so they had a perfect position to go ahead and take Skoronski before somebody else did. And then a quarterback that people were saying could be the first-round pick.
All right, well, I want to get to that point. Thank you for your call, Lincoln. Here's my thing on the run on linemen. And, okay, well, we need a lineman before we need a quarterback. Not if you were going to trade all those picks for C.J. Stroud. If you were going to trade all those picks for C.J. Stroud, it means that you were willing to go for the quarterback first, which is how every team does it. When you're an expansion team and you're picking number 1, what do you normally take? A quarterback. When your team stinks so bad that you're number 1, what do you normally take if it's there and if he's good? A quarterback. All those teams have holes too, but they take the quarterback first. So the Titans were willing to take the quarterback before the offensive lineman. If anything, by your theory that, hey, offensive linemen were coming off the board, and so if they didn't take Skoronski, they wouldn't be able to get an offensive lineman, couldn't I argue that quarterbacks were coming off the board? I mean, immediately, 1, 2, 4, gone. Don't you then at 11, if we're going to get the quarterback, we better take him now. The reason I believe that they picked Skoronski ahead of Will Levis is because they think Skoronski's a better player, which is great, but you don't win games because of guards, and you do, tackles are important. But you don't win games because of guards. You win because of quarterbacks. So if you liked a guard or tackle, and I play him at tackle, but if you liked the offensive lineman, so you would have had to like him so much more than the quarterback in order to take him over the quarterback, that you must not like the quarterback that much. Now, again, the idea that these guys all have high ceilings and man, this is the NFL. You could take Tom Brady in the 6th round, and they would tell you that he doesn't have a high ceiling, and then obviously he went on to be the greatest player who ever lived. So if you had to ask me, the 2 greatest players in my lifetime, and I was too young for Montana, and I'd say I was a little too young as well for Lawrence Taylor, but I'll go ahead and put them up there. But Lawrence Taylor was the 2nd pick in the draft, and Tom Brady was the 199th pick, And those are probably the 2 best players of my lifetime. One of them was incredibly talented, just oozed it. There was no way around it with Lawrence Taylor. And the other was Brady, who probably should have gone in the 3rd or 4th round just based off his measurables. But he didn't play much in college. There were questions. And so he ended up sliding to the 6th round. So I don't care about, the ceilings and the floors and that. Now, if you're worried about the coaching staff, let me say this. Those are Vrabel's guys. So if you don't like the coaching staff, you're going to have to fire Vrabel. Or you're going to have to suck it up and trust in the coaching staff. You can't have it both ways. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Mike Vrabel will be on Chase and Michelle tomorrow at 10:15, so we'll be looking forward to that. Kevin texts into the text line and says it's pretty clear from watching the Vrabel-Carthon press conference on Friday that those two are not on the same page. Vrabel is not the nicest guy in the world, and Carthon is, and I see trouble already. It was definitely painful to watch. If Vrabel wasn't eyes wide open, he was looking around every time Carthon spoke as if he was dying. It was obvious, and I wonder if Carthon is having an issue with Mike as well. I don't know. I just know this. When they hired him, and they said, hey, there's not going to be the general manager, but of the coach. They're going to work together. They'll be aligned. We promise. Who's in charge? It doesn't matter. I said to you all, it's going to matter when something bad happens. When it hits the fan, it's going to matter. And I'm going to tell you why it's going to matter. Because if Will Levis doesn't work out, it's going to be Mike wanted him, not me. That's what it's going to be. Well, he picked him, not me. But it's easy now. 615-737-1025. The one pick I really didn't understand. And I also feel like the Titans didn't really do a good job explaining it. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company right here, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hi, I'm UC Saros. And this is Smashville.
Now here's a try off to the side. What a stop made by UC Saros there.
Unreal. You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators Radio Network. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Have you noticed that most ice creams now come in smaller cartons? Not Bluebell. We're still making a full half-gallon and a full pint of tasty goodness. Bluebell wouldn't have it any other way.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at Aldi supermarkets.
You don't have just an ordinary mom in your life. She's the best. Her work never stops. Her sacrifices are many. Her love is unfailing. This Mother's Day, Genesis Diamonds invites you to join us in celebrating and appreciating the mothers in our lives. Stop in and let one of our trusted advisors help you find a special, meaningful gift. Layering necklaces, stackable rings, eternity bands, pearls, elegant diamond pendants, and of course, stunning diamond earrings. Great Mother's Day ideas for any budget. There's no doubt we love Mom, but sometimes a little extra appreciation goes a long way as a thank you for helping us through challenges, making sacrifices, and always putting the family first. So whether it's her first Mother's Day or her 60th, Mom deserves a gift that's anything but ordinary. And at Genesis, that's our specialty. Exquisite rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, heirloom pieces. Timeless gifts of jewelry that she can enjoy and cherish for decades to come, and always be reminded of how special she is to the family. Genesis Diamonds, online at genesisdiamonds.net.
You enjoy the thrill of gambling, but what happens when it becomes a problem? Whether you want to cut back or quit gambling altogether, the Gambling Clinic has been helping people change their gambling for over 2 decades. We're here to help, not to judge. The Gambling Clinic is a Tennessee-based clinic offering in-person and telehealth support to help people win back their life. Visit us at thegamblingclinic.com. This project is funded by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
Want to enter the construction field as a career? Make good money and finish with no debt and earn while you learn. Average starting salary over $18 an hour. First year of college averages $10,000. 4 years of our Construction Trades Academy, a total of $800 to $9,600. Applications are open with first-year scholarships available. CTANash.com. ABC Greater Tennessee Construction Trades Academy. Apply today. CTANash.com.
The postseason is here. Whether it's the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs or the NBA, we have you covered on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, I'm Gary Smith, head coach of Nashville SC. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 The Game.
For the 81st pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Tajay Spears, running back from Tulane. Tighten up, everybody!
There you go. Jason McCourty got up there and delivered the pick. And I got to tell you, I did not like Jason McCourty, getting up there and trying to trash talk the Kansas City fans about what the Patriots did when he was on their team before he made the Titans pick, and then talking about barbecue. And dude, just make the pick. But so Tajay Spears, the running back. So I'm sitting down, and they make that pick. And it was funny because Derek and Chris were like, oh, because I wasn't doing the show Friday with them. They were like, we can't wait to see some of these picks. You're going to go crazy. They picked Levis. And Derek texted me and was like, what do you think of the pick? And I almost felt like Derek was texting me because he wanted, me to, I can't believe they know. And I was like, I like Levis. Now their careers and jobs are tied to Levis, but I like Levis. But so then they make this pick. And I'm sitting on the couch and I watch the pick and I almost rise up and I'm like, what? A running back? Then Ian Rappaport comes on the TV and he says there's no ACL in Tajay Spears' knee, that there's no cartilage, and that he's developing arthritis already in the knee. And then I thought, what? A running back who's hurt? And then they showed him in the draft room on the Titans cam, and they were happy as could be. You would think that they just drafted Terrell Davis. And so I called a physical therapist today, and I was like, what does it mean that he doesn't have an ACL in his knee? And he was like, yeah, I don't know how you can play running back without an ACL in your knee. So they drafted. Here's the thing, though. You draft him fine. But I don't understand the pick. I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I'm not saying you didn't have your reasons for the pick. I don't understand what those reasons would have been. And so I thought Terry McCormick asked a very valid question after we had all heard that Tajay Spears was hurt about, what's the deal with this knee? And here's what Vrabel said.
Spears has had some knee problems in the past. Are you convinced that his issues are past him and he's going to be fine?
Played a lot of really productive snaps. I don't know how many. Didn't miss much time at all. Was a full participant throughout the week at the Senior Bowl. I think both of us are comfortable with where we're at with Tajay and what his availability will be going forward. Now that may change, but feel good about where it is right now.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, hey, he practiced at the Senior Bowl, so he must. That means that knee will hang around over time. And then I don't understand what they were picking for. Were they picking for the heir apparent to Derrick Henry at running back? Like, is Tajay Spears going to be the third down back this year? And then when Derrick Henry's contract's up, they're going to turn it over to him, and they're going to hand him the ball. This running back who is built nothing like Derrick, they're going to hand him the ball like he's Derrick when he's got no ACL and developing arthritis in the knee. Is that the plan? Like, and I'm not poo-pooing it. I'm just saying, is that what it is? Because I saw somebody tweet out there that this is the replacement for Dontrell Hilliard. You don't replace your third down running back in the third round of the draft. You draft guys who you need to start, not right away, but eventually in the third round of the draft. You don't draft a third down running back. That's like when Ken Wisenhunt was here and they took Jalston Fowler, a fullback, in the fourth round of the 2015 draft. And I said at the time, I go, if you're drafting a fullback in the fourth round, what you're telling me is we're good at every other position because we're going to draft the fullback. So, again, I'm not crapping on the kid because I don't know anything about him. I mean, I know he lit it up at Tulane, but he's an injured running back. You have a pretty good running back. You have a backup running back. You've also been able to find running backs off of the street, whether they were Hilliard or Deontay Foreman or Jeremy McNichols or who was that, Ward, who played last year in the last game? Like, you found guys that are okay. You don't have a receiver. You didn't have a backup tight end at that point until you took the kid in the fifth round, and you drafted a running back? Are you going to give Derrick less carries this year? Are you going to try to extend Derrick's contract and extend his career? Like, what's the plan around this pick? And I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I'm just saying I do not understand it at all. And it's okay when you're asked about the knee to not get all defensive of, well, he played in the Senior Bowl. I mean, it's okay. Will Levis didn't play in the Senior Bowl. He's still fine with him. But it's okay to say, yeah, we know the knee's a concern. We saw it at the combine. Our doctors took a look at it. Our doctors feel like Tajay's best football's ahead of him. We really value, his contributions, and our medical staff. I mean, because I hope they had those questions with their medical staff. I mean, Rick Spielman, the old general manager of the Vikings, he said a couple of weeks ago that he would bring the medical people in when they were doing these discussions, and he would put them on the clock. And he would say, how long is this guy going to be able to play in the NFL for? How likely is he to get injured in the future? And you know that with doctors, he would never get a straight answer, but he wanted direct answers because, again, how can I invest in this guy if I don't know? And with the Titans, it was just, we're comfortable with it because he practiced at the Senior Bowl. Wait a minute. What? And then they brought in Chad Brinker on Saturday after the end of the draft. He's the assistant general manager. He's Rand Carthon's number 2. And he's supposed to be like the analytic guru, right? And so they ask him, he was talking about analytics, and he starts talking about how analytics will help determine injuries. And I'm thinking, what? And so good on Joe. Joe asked Chad Brinker, what does that mean?
So your model, the injuries is also part of that. Is that correct? And can you explain how that works?
That's correct. There's a couple of things we're going to use it for, and we have been. It has to do with the salary cap as well as the injury model that we built, and those things are in process. So we're a little bit ahead on the salary cap side. We're going to continue to build out the injury prediction model. So we're in the middle of doing that now.
Okay, so the injury prediction model analytics, we don't have that done yet. Don't you think by the draft would be the time that you'd kind of want that done? So, so the analytics are supposed to determine whether or not if, Junior Seau decapitates him, across the middle of the field, the analytics are supposed to determine whether or not the guy's going to, he'll bounce back because according to the analytics, he has a 0.075% chance of rupturing his cranium. And that would be what? And so then they asked him, and I think this is a good question from TD. TD asked Chad Brinker specifically how the analytics came into play when trying to figure out what Tyjae Spears' medical situation is going to be, which again, I think is a fair question.
You mentioned the analytical model and how that regarding injuries. How does that impact the way you look at a guy like Tyjae Spears, or with the history of injuries? How does that impact you guys all being comfortable making a selection like that?
Well, I think first and foremost, you go to your medical team. I mean, that's where it starts, and you got to trust your medical team and their evaluation. And obviously we selected that guy because he's a great player, and we felt really comfortable about where he was medically. And then, of course, you look at all the other factors. How many games did they miss? How often were they injured? There's a variance of things that we look at throughout the process. We felt really good about that running back.
Talking to the medical people is not analytics. Seeing how many games a guy missed, that's not analytics. So what are we doing here? So, again, when it comes to the Spears pick, I don't know. I mean, again, he lit it up at Tulane. And, from all accounts, he's a good player. I'm not questioning that. But what's the purpose of drafting him onto this specific team, given who its running back is? And what is the specific, comfortability that you guys have with the knee when Ian Rappaport jumped on TV the second after you took him and scared all of us to death? And why that, the injured running back at the position that you have Derrick Henry, as opposed to a receiver? And if you can answer those questions for me, then fine. Then it makes sense. But as far as that actual pick when it went down, I'm still thinking to myself, okay, third round, have needs. I'm not a big needs guy, but the third round's different than the first round. And you go running back, the position where you have the best player in the NFL, and then we find out that the guy is hurt and has arthritis, which we generally associate with old people. How did we get there? Well, we've got analytics that determine injuries. Tell us about the analytics with injuries. Well, we haven't finished it yet. Well, the draft was last week. What about this? Well, we talked to the medical team. That's not analytics. 615-737-1025 or to your phones next. Stillman and Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game has an all-star lineup Monday through Friday. Batting first at 6 a.m., it's Robby and Rexroad.
Yeah, you take that. You take that. Take 80% of that.
Followed by Chase and Michelle at 9.
Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I need my caffeine so much.
Then it's Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace at 11.
Yep, green light, let's go.
You've got a lot of options.
He say, she say. And bringing it home at 2, Jared Stillman for Stillman and Company.
That guy will be a good coach.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Attention, buckaroos. It's time for the Franklin Rodeo. So saddle up and hold on to your lasso. It's 3 days of bull riding, calf roping, western wear, funny clowns, and some of the most talented horses you've ever seen. Join the Stampede from May 18th to May 20th. The Franklin Rodeo is held at the Williamson County Ag Expo Park and is brought to you by Ram Rodeo, Franklin Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Williamson Health, Event 1FX, and Wesley Mortgage. Tickets on sale now at franklinrodeo.com. It's a buckin' good time.
Hey, what's up? Teron Davenport here for Superbook Sports. Baseball season is back, and the push for the postseason is on for hockey and hoops. Make it all count this spring with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the best sports wagering app around, with a direct line to experienced bookmakers behind the counter in Las Vegas. Plus, check this. Get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager in the same day. Don't let spring pass you by without winning money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problems? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Looking for a career with purpose or have that passion for youth development? Boys and Girls Clubs of Middle Tennessee provides a safe place where youth gain the tools to learn, lead, and reach their full potential. And that starts with you, offering competitive pay and free after-school care for employees. Learn more at bgcmt.org.
Celebrating mothers everywhere, Electronic Express has what you need to make this the best Mother's Day yet. Spoil mom with brands like Samsung, Sony, LG, Breville, Jura, and more. We've also got huge savings in every department. 4K TVs, computers, housewares, smart home, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 3 years free financing. Shop in-store or online. Get more for mom at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Hey, Ray Jeter here with Harness. Are you looking to take ownership in a position that will support your growth and development? We are an excavation and site utilities contractor. Several things set us apart from our competition, but we take the most pride in the professional development of our people. We have multiple openings for operators, pipe layers, and laborers. Our pay and benefits are second to none, including our 401k program. Apply today at selectharness.com. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
When you order food for work on EasyCater.com, we've got your back. Real humans are here to help with your order every step of the way, making sure everything goes right, even behind the scenes without you knowing. Confirming and double confirming with the restaurant that everything is on track. If there's a problem,
thanks for calling EasyCater.
Call us anytime, day or night, and we'll answer in seconds. We're right here with 100,000 restaurants, working hard to ensure the food arrives on time and is ordered. Order 24/7 at EasyCater.com.
They talk sports.
The Predators get the 2 points, which is obviously what they needed.
They're not making big moves that are jaw-dropping signings in free agency.
They talk life.
Well, I almost just fell down the stairs, so there's that.
My backpack was so heavy, the seatbelt alarm was going off the entire trip.
But most of all, they have a good time.
Here or there.
Yeah.
Chase and Michelle, weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Tennessee Titans general manager Ran Carthon is with us. Ran, I watched that Tulane USC game and Tajay Spears was cooking. Man, he was fun to watch in that game. But understanding the injury history with Tajay Spears and how much this team has struggled with injury over the past couple of years, what made you comfortable about bringing him into this team, and where do you see his role developing over the next few years?
Tajay, we had a really, really strong and great visit with him when we brought him in, on the 30 visit. He felt like one of us when Mike and I sat down and talked to him. And then just in terms of his medical, spending our time with Todd Torselli, our head trainer, and our doctors, we understand what the risks were, but we feel good about, not only him and his knee moving forward, but, the help that we could give him to maximize, his ability to play in practice.
There you go. That was Ran Carthon today on Caroline, Willie, and D. Mace. And I guess he's saying the trainer said he'll be fine. So even though Ian Rappaport scared all of us about the Tajay Spears injury, he's saying he'll be fine. Now, you heard the other part she asked about what his role's going to be. And I don't know if Ran, continued on that and answered that question or not.
He did.
He did? What did he say?
Pretty much,
they determine the roles. All these guys come in, they determine the roles, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was that talk about how, we don't know if Skoronski's going to play tackle or guard. Should probably have that discussion before you pick him at 11th overall where he's going to play. My guess is they probably did. But again, okay, running back, 3rd round. You say he's going to be healthy. They say he's not going to be healthy. We'll see.
Could this be a situation where they did go maybe best player available?
They absolutely had to go best player available here, but they went best injured player available.
Fair.
So that adds to kind of the fire of, and again, the 3rd round, and I'm not a needs guy, but I'm also you need to have a receiver. Weston is up next here on the program. Thank you for calling and waiting. What's up, Weston?
Hey, Jared. Just wanted to bring up something about Tyjae Spears. Everybody's, I understand, is a little worried about the knee issue. Sometimes if you go back in history in the NFL, you actually, one player that won a couple of Super Bowls didn't have either ACL and meniscus, and that was Hines Ward. And he had a pretty lengthy career. He had a very productive career. And as somebody that's dislocated my knee multiple times, sometimes it's better if you don't have an ACL in there for injuries. So I'll take time to listen. Thanks, guys.
How is that the case? Thank you for the call. How is that the case? Because if you didn't have to have an ACL, if you tore your ACL, then why would you have to immediately get it fixed? Then can't you just play with a torn ACL? Is a torn ACL and no ACL? What's the difference? I mean, they said that Odell Beckham didn't have an ACL, that Odell Beckham took his physical with the Rams, and they told him, you don't have an ACL, that knee's going to pop. And he was like, well, if it gets me, it gets me. And obviously it got him in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, again, I'm not a doctor as far as is this that big of a deal that he doesn't have, the cartilage thickness or the ACL. But if you don't, how do you not play with an ACL? Right? Like, I don't. And then how do you invest that much in somebody that doesn't have an ACL? And you can't give me, well, Hines Ward, okay. But on this team, where they run the ball extensively, the running back doesn't have an ACL. Look, maybe you're right. I don't know. Texter into the text line says, if Spears is healthy, he can easily be a nice complementary piece to Henry due to his elusiveness and receiving ability in the backfield. Yet there were other running backs they could have gotten later if they decided they needed that. I like Spears, but I do have concerns. I mean, I have to imagine that if they took Tyjae Spears in the 3rd round, that the expectation would be that he would eventually be a starting running back. I don't think you take the complementary piece to Derrick Henry in the 3rd round.
Does this mean Hassan Haskins has no role upcoming?
I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if anything Ran Carthon said at the Combine had an ounce of truth to it. Because he talked at the Combine about how, Haskins is a good running back. He just needs more opportunities. And then he turned around and drafted a running back in the 3rd round. Now, Haskins does provide them with a lot of special teams value, and he was taken in the 4th round, so that's not the end of the world. But, I mean, again, he talked about how Haskins needed more of an opportunity, and then he turned around and he took him. He talked about how he needed to get to know Bud Dupree, and then the next day he cut him. So maybe nothing he said at the Combine had any truth to it or not, but I mean, again, Hassan Haskins is not part of my decision-making process in this. But, again, a 3rd round pick when you don't have a receiver? A 3rd round pick on a running back. Like Detroit, for instance. Detroit doesn't have a running back because DeAndre Swift is always hurt and Jamal Williams left in free agency. So Detroit takes Jahmyr Gibbs in the top 15. And everybody thinks they're crazy. And, I mean, I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think I'd take him in the top 15, but I like him fine. But at least I understand because then they turn around and they trade DeAndre Swift. So you know that Jahmyr Gibbs will be the running back of the Detroit Lions this season. I know exactly what Jahmyr Gibbs' role is going to be. Jared Goff's going to hand him the ball 18 times a game, and he's going to throw it to him 6 or 7. Makes sense. It's like, what's his role? Is it that you see him as the heir apparent to Derek? Okay, well, if you see him as the heir apparent to Derek at his size, can he carry the ball as much as Derek carries the ball? And the answer is probably no. And with his knee, can that hold up if you ask him to do what you've asked Derek to do? And the answer, again, and I'm not a doctor and I haven't looked at his knee, but I just kind of assume that the answer to that is no. So what's he going to do?
I don't know why, but it's unfair to Tajay Spears, but I'm getting Darrington Evans flashes for
sure.
a third-round pick.
But that's unfair.
It is unfair.
That's not, that's not fair to Tajay Spears.
That's not fair. So, got to try and snap out of that third round, smaller, change of pace back kind of feel. That did not go well.
Texter says, stop saying Spears is hurt. He is not currently hurt. The second ACL was 3 years ago. He obviously played just fine with no ACL up until this point. I mean, if somebody were to have played fine, but they had an enlarged heart, and they found that out at the combine, like that guy's career's over. And there is no, he's played with this enlarged heart for the last 10 years, so it hasn't gotten him yet. Right? Like there was a player that played at Baylor in the NBA, Isaiah Austin. And when he went into the NBA combine before the draft, they saw that he had like some kind of heart syndrome and he couldn't play. And that was it. And so, no one would draft him. But it wasn't like someone said, he was fine before. Well, he practiced at the Senior Bowl. No, we discovered this and now. But hey, they say the doctors feel cool with him from a medical standpoint. If only their analytics model that told us about their injuries was ready in time to give us the % chance that somebody gets hurt. I could not get over that.
Could have used that a couple of years ago.
We have an analytic model to determine injuries? Does that make sense to anybody?
I mean, we always were told the injury rate in the NFL is 100%. So.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about like actual analytics. Like, what? Like, well, the amount of torque that he uses on his body is different than the amount of torque that this guy uses. Like, is that out? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. 615-737-737. I got Will Levis on my mind. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. I like Will Levis. But I think the way you guys feel about Will Levis, I think you all need to chill. I'll explain why. We'll do that next, and we'll give something away next hour because we're in a good mood today. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
For the win! Yes! Vanderbilt wins it!
All the big stories.
Quarterback carousel, what the Titans decide to do at the quarterback position.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
10% chance of making the playoffs.
Checker flag is in the
team
air.
with incredible talent.
Every team in the league.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch because we can strategize all we want. But unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
The Beach Boys. Live in concert. May 25th, 26th, and 27th at Schermerhorn Symphony Center. Performing with the Nashville Symphony. The Beach Boys return to the stage. Tickets on sale now at NashvilleSymphony.org. Don't miss the Beach Boys live with the Nashville Symphony.
Did you know that more than 4,000 children in Nashville are experiencing homelessness right now? And across Middle Tennessee, that number grows to more than 9,000. Hi, I'm Jamie with Souls for Souls, a global nonprofit based right here in Nashville, and we're on a mission to provide these kids with a brand new pair of athletic shoes through our For Every Kid program. Because we know that something as simple as a pair of shoes can change a child's future. Students who receive these new shoes tell us things like, I can't believe these shoes are mine. I finally have something new of my own and don't feel left out. And my feet feel like they can breathe. We're joining forces with our friends here at 102.5 The Game for the second annual Music City Celebrity Golf Tournament to help provide new shoes to kids across Nashville. It's all happening June 7th at the Hermitage Golf Course. Come join us for an afternoon of fellowship and fun, all in support of a great cause. Go to thegamenashville.com for more information and to register.
This is Jim Mitchell at Mr. Transmission in Madison. Many of you care about a cure for cystic fibrosis. I care a lot and support the Saturday, May 6th golf tournament at Hendersonville's beautiful Country Hill Golf Course. It's the CureForOurFriends.org 9th annual golf tournament for cystic fibrosis. Tee off at 7:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. on May the 6th. Lots of prizes and sports stars, lunch and dinner provided for each tee time. Sign up at CureForOurFriends.org. That's CureForOurFriends.org.
Your Game Center update.
This update brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The NFL draft has come to an end as the Titans took 6 players over the 3-day bonanza. The first 3 picks were offensive lineman Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern, quarterback Will Levis from Kentucky, and running back Tajay Spears out of Tulane. Titans general manager Rand Carthon talked about his first draft class under his new role.
I think we have great people. First and foremost, I think we have really good football players that will all work. They're all going to put in the work. They're all going to, come here and hope to live out their dreams of playing in Nissan Stadium on Sundays, and we're excited to have them.
Rookie minicamp for the Titans will get going later this month. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's Game 7 between the Rangers and the Devils tonight. The winner moves on to take on the Hurricanes. In the NBA playoffs, Game 1 between the 76ers and the Celtics tips off tonight, followed by Game 2 between the Suns and the Nuggets. Nashville SC announced today the club mutually agreed to terminate the contract of forward Ake Loba, and don't miss the latest edition of the Commodore Hour starting at 6 o'clock tonight on 94.9 The Fan. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3. I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. So the Titans drafted Will Levis on Friday night. We told you on Friday that we were hearing that the Titans were trying to take Will Levis. And, I mean, Chad Withrow came on Friday, and he was just, I have eyes. Will Levis stinks. I can't believe anybody would take Will Levis. And I did not know on Friday that the draft started at 6:30. I thought it started at 7 like it did the night before. But apparently it starts a little bit earlier. And so my phone just starts blowing up at like 6:34 with people that are like, wow, Levis, what do you make of it? What do you think? And I'm like, and this is what I told everybody. I like Levis. I don't love Levis. I loved Anthony Richardson. I like Levis. I think Levis has the potential to be a franchise quarterback. I think Levis is big. I think Levis is athletic. I think Levis has the arm. I actually think Levis can put more touch on the ball than he gets credit for. I think that Will Levis plays in an offense in which, the Titans run. I think Will Levis, his attention to detail is very high. If you watch the On the Clock docuseries with the Mannings, he talks about play action fakes and something that he saw Peyton Manning do in like an old 1999 video and just the details of running the fakes and things like that. I think he loves football from everybody I've talked to that knows him. I think he loves football, and I think he's kind of a bozo. So I don't like the bozo. And so what you would hope is that your coaches can kind of accentuate the good things and minimize the bad things. But I like Will Levis. But you all hated Will Levis last week. Now, I don't know if the same people who hated Will Levis last week still hate Will Levis this week. But I do know that the initial reaction when the Titans took Will Levis was, Oh, my God, how could they take Will Levis? And I just think you guys need to chill with that. For starters, I think a big reason why a lot of people don't like Will Levis is because Will Levis played at the University of Kentucky and that the University of Kentucky got beat by the University of Tennessee. And that if I had to take the entire Titans fan base, I would say 45% of the Titans fan base, or at least like the Nashville Titans fan base, 45% of the Titans fan base likes the Vols. I think a majority of fans either don't care about the Vols or root for other college teams and hate the Vols. But I think the biggest, Venn diagram, the mutually cheered upon teams, Titans and Vols, right? I don't think in East Tennessee they care about the Titans, but I don't care about East Tennessee. So we're just focusing on right here and right now. And because of that, I think there's two things at play. One, Kentucky was terrible in the game that they played this year against Tennessee. And two, and probably more important, Tennessee fans are upset at the idea that Will Levis would be taken over their guy, Hendon Hooker. If Will Levis played on a below average, because Kentucky's a below average SEC program, right? Like when we think about the best football teams in the SEC, where does Kentucky rank? 11th? Like they're there with Missouri and Vandy and South Carolina and probably below Mississippi State, but they're certainly not Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M. Like we do not sit there and think that LSU and Kentucky are on the same plane. We can all agree. So if Will Levis played at NC State, right? NC State is not a great football powerhouse in the ACC. Every now and then they have some good teams. Every now and then they have some good players. Bradley Chubb went to NC State, very good player. Phillip Rivers went to NC State, very good quarterback. If Will Levis played at NC State, I don't think you guys would hate Will Levis as much. But I think it's because he went to Kentucky and you guys watched him more, and it specifically against your team, 45% of you Tennessee fans, and it's like, hey, sucks. If he went to an average Big Ten team, below average Big Ten team, Illinois, I don't think that you would have as strong of feelings, pro or minus, when it comes to Will Levis. But I think it's because he went to Kentucky. And I think it's because there was all the hype surrounding him going into the year, that a lot of people just expected him to be Superman. And I watched the documentary Elway to Marino. It's one of my favorite 30 for 30s. If you have ESPN Plus, watch the Elway to Marino documentary. And there may be other ways to watch this documentary too. I don't know. But all the 30 for 30s are on ESPN Plus. And what it is it's the story of the 1983 draft. And Marvin Demoff was the agent for both John Elway and Dan Marino. And Elway was taken first, and Marino was taken 27th. And it kind of chronicled, why Dan Marino slipped and why John Elway went where he did. And Marvin Demoff brought up the fact that it was almost like all of the knocks against John Elway, nobody paid attention to. Stanford was 5-6, and nobody talked about it. But Miami was supposed to be a national contender, and they were 10-3, and everybody made a big stink about why Dan Marino didn't win more games. Elway threw interceptions at Stanford, but nobody talked about it. But Marino, it was, oh my God, can you believe all the interceptions he threw at Pittsburgh? And I almost feel like there's something similar to that when it comes to Levis. With Bryce Young, we don't talk about the negatives. We don't talk about the fact that it takes one big hit from one of these big old fat linemen that they've got, and he gets knocked out, and all of a sudden, now what are you going to do? That nobody has made the Hall of Fame at under 200 pounds at quarterback other than Fran Tarkenton, and Fran Tarkenton played 60 years ago. Or I shouldn't say 50 years ago, Fran Tarkenton played. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So we don't talk about those things with Bryce Young. With C.J. Stroud, I don't hear anybody that talks about the fact that he was awful in 2 games against Michigan. But all we hear about is how great he was in the Georgia game. I love this. Oh, watch the Georgia game. They lost. You guys are mad at Will Levis for not winning more games. Georgia or Ohio State lost that game. But nobody ever talks about that. Every big game C.J. Stroud played in college, he lost. He lost to Michigan twice. He lost this one. But nobody ever talks about that. But with Levis, it's like, man, you guys just hated him going into this. And I told you all, I watched the film. And I watched the 6 points they scored Kentucky this past season against Georgia. And I thought I'd flip that on, and it would have been hideous. And Levis did make a terrible decision on an interception that he threw from the 18-yard line. And in theory, it cost Kentucky points. Now, Kentucky couldn't kick, so they may not have made that anyways. But in theory, it cost them points, and it's an inexcusable throw. And he made a throw right before the end of the half where he made the right decision, but he made a bad throw, trying to put touch on the ball, and it gave Georgia an extra possession, and Georgia scored. And those things can't happen. And we'd all agree, everybody who's pro Will Levis, whether it's me, whether it's Liam Cohn, whether it's Vrabel, we would all agree that, hey, some of these things that happened this past year at Kentucky, they can't happen in the NFL. He's going to have to work that out of himself. But isn't that with every quarterback who's not Joe Burrow? Isn't that with every quarterback who's not Peyton Manning? I mean, Anthony Richardson went number 4 overall. There are going to be things that he did at Florida that he absolutely cannot do in the NFL. C.J. Stroud is not going to be throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson every week in the NFL. So it will be different. So he'll have to improve. But man, the angst against Levis, just the, hey, sucks. I got to tell you, I watched his film. I didn't feel that way. I even watched the film. You always talk about a guy watching the good films, the bad films, and so I watched the Georgia game, and I walked out of that. And I did that about 3 weeks ago, and I walked out of that, and I was feeling better about Levis after having watched it because I could see that he's got the arm, that he willed Kentucky back into the game, and he is a tough football player. Now, again, he's kind of, the mayonnaise in the coffee, the banana peel stuff, the TikTok, the asking the Mannings about marketing. That's kind of, a little bozo right there, and I don't like that. But I watched the Georgia game. I was impressed. I watched the Tennessee game, and it was not a good game. He did not throw for 100 yards. But I watched him miss a throw on the first drive that led to a punt. It was a throw against the zone. He got happy feet. He was afraid of the rush, and he fired off platform and missed an open guy that should have been a first down. That's bad. The second drive, he puts the ball right in the receiver's hands. A beautiful throw on 3rd and long when everybody knows he's throwing it. Drops in with beautiful touch, drops the ball right in the bucket, and the receiver drops it. The third drive, they score a touchdown. The fourth drive, in which he made a decision that I was not very happy with. One that Kirk Herbstreit was like, if this is the NFL, you can't do that. Where he had nothing around the goal line, should have thrown the ball away, and instead tried to run it in and got crushed. Yeah, throw the ball away. So they score a touchdown on the second drive, or the third drive. The fourth drive, they're driving inside the red zone. He hits the ball right into the receiver. The receiver gets popped. Ball pops in the air. Tennessee intercepts it. And at that point, the game's over and they're playing from behind. Not exactly his fault. But again, you all just, Will Levis sucks. And so Friday night, there were a lot of upset people. And I'll just tell you, I like Levis. I think he's got potential. But I don't love Levis. Certainly not like watching Anthony Richardson for me. But you can't just throw your hands up and say he sucks because I just don't think it's true. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. And again, I think a lot of that comes from you guys being Tennessee fans and the fact that there's almost this level of offense that you could take that guy over our guy. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in. For every argument you have against Will Levis, I can make an argument for him. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Let's go ahead and give something away. I promised we'd do it. I'm in a good mood. Today's an exciting day. I think people are probably mad at me. So let's give away a pair of tickets to see Kenny Loggins at the First Bank Amphitheater. Be caller 5 right now, and you will win a pair of tickets to see Kenny Loggins at First Bank Amphitheater on May 11th. That's right. That's right around the corner. Good luck for the Kenny Loggins tickets. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, live and local from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. When you want the national Hey,
Hey. I got this. I'll take it from here.
Okay, go ahead. Dying to hear this.
We have the best national voices that you'll find anywhere.
Who was more deserving of being thrown from their game?
I'm odd, so I get the odd picks.
They have a new coaching staff.
It's not a bad scenario for them.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
And 94.9 The Fan.
When the game goes into overtime. But the game goes into overtime. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Pick up Bud Light at your local convenience store today. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Music City will be rocking June 23rd through the 25th with a different sound. The sound of NASCAR.
Start your engine!
The Ally 400 is back at Nashville Superspeedway, and this year, it's a night race. NASCAR in Nashville. It's guitars and fast cars under the lights. Visit NashvilleSuperspeedway.com to get your tickets for the triple header weekend, including the Ally 400, Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Rackley Roofing 200 today.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The Arizona Cardinals have traded the 33rd pick to the Tennessee Titans. With the 33rd pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Will Levis, quarterback, Kentucky.
So your answer of how long it would be is not very long. The quarterback who many thought would go in the first round is off the board with the second pick in the second round. And Jim Miller, they traded up to do it to make sure nobody else got their guy. They thought it was not where they wanted to go at pick number 11 or in the first round. But here in the second round, it's a different story, and they made the decision to get him.
Good for him. I know it was a hard day for him yesterday. I personally like Will Levis. I think he's tough. I think he can do a lot of things. He's big. He's physical. Certainly, he's got to clean up the turnovers. But it was a rough day for him yesterday. I wish, and I said it earlier, he should have played in the Senior Bowl. He should have played in the Senior Bowl, and that would have helped him apples to apples. And it's unfortunate that he didn't. I think he would have helped him.
Potentially the toe kept him from doing that.
Right.
And I'm just going to add a sense of relief. You hated what he had to go through yesterday.
There you go. That was NFL radio when he was picked. And that Senior Bowl thing, I do think that was a bigger deal than he probably anticipated. Those people love the Senior Bowl, though. You want to show that you want to compete. And then you heard Rick Neuheisel bring up the toe. I talked to a former general manager in the NFL who told me that it had nothing to do with the toe. And maybe that general manager is wrong. I don't know. But he said, this has nothing to do with the toe. You know, that's not why Will Levis fell. Texter into the text line, and our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Texter says, a UT defense that had the worst secondary in the Power 5. Look, I'm not anti-Levis because he went to UK. I'm not anti-Levis because the Titans took him over Hooker. I'm anti-Levis because he turns the ball over a lot, and the blame is almost always on his teammates or coaches, and never that Levis panicked and made a bad decision. And I don't think that that's true. In fact, I think people that like Will Levis like I do will admit that, hey, I thought Will Levis blew the Ole Miss game where they would have been 6-0 if they had won. They scored the touchdown to go ahead, but somebody wasn't set. They had an illegal shift. Well, that's on the quarterback. The quarterback has to make sure everybody is set before they snap the ball. That's his fault. Then on the next play, he was strip sacked, fumbled, Ole Miss wins the game. And even though you could say, well, he didn't see the blitzer, you got to win the game there. I told you, he made a bad decision, in my opinion, a bad decision against Georgia that cost them points. I didn't say that was his teammate's fault. But I also know that they dropped 4 passes in that UGA game. I also know the interception, the first one that he threw against Tennessee, he put the ball right in the guy's hands, and then the DB hit him, and the ball popped in the air, and it was intercepted. And at that point, it was blood in the water because Tennessee was up 28-6. And the thing about Will Levis is for every single thing that you don't like about Will Levis, I can always give you an example of an NFL player who has had success. When it comes to Bryce Young, and this is what would scare me about Bryce Young, when it comes to Bryce Young, and you say, okay, how many guys under 200 pounds have made it to the Hall of Fame? At quarterback, 1, Fran Tarkenton. That's it. When it comes to C.J. Stroud, how many guys in this Urban Meyer offense that Ohio State runs, how many of those guys, whether it's Alex Smith at Utah or Tebow at Florida or Braxton Miller or J.T. Barrett or Cardale Jones, how many of those guys have had success in the NFL? So I can do this for all these guys where it's hard to come up with somebody. Now, Alex Smith had success, but again, Alex is not going to the Hall of Fame. And I think that's kind of when I watch C.J. Stroud, that's what I see. But for every nick on Will Levis's resume, I can say, okay, well, then look to this player. For instance, a lot of people say Will Levis threw too many interceptions, which I would agree with. But he threw 10 last year. Dan Marino threw 23 interceptions as a junior at Pittsburgh and 23 interceptions as a senior. Last time I checked, Dan Marino was pretty good. People will say Will Levis could not beat out Sean Clifford at Penn State. I mean, come on. He couldn't even beat out Sean Clifford. How is he going to be able to be an NFL quarterback? Well, Tom Brady couldn't beat out Brian Griese or Scott Driesbach at Michigan. Joe Burrow couldn't beat out Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State. There's no doubt when it comes to being a quarterback and an NFL quarterback, Will Levis is infinitely better than Sean Clifford. Just like Joe Burrow was infinitely better than Dwayne Haskins. Just like Tom Brady ended up being infinitely better than Brian Griese. Well, you know, he fell to the second round because he's no good. Right. Just like in the 2001 draft, Drew Brees fell to the second round where San Diego, who had traded back the number 1 pick in that draft to draft LaDainian Tomlinson and give the number 1 pick to Atlanta for Michael Vick, drafted Drew Brees. Drew Brees was the first pick of the second round. Just because Mahomes was a first rounder, Burrow was a first rounder. Remember the whole green room saga of look how far Will Levis is falling, the embarrassment on national TV? That's what happened to Aaron Rodgers. Alex Smith went number 1. Aaron Rodgers sat in the green room. So that doesn't make much of a difference to me. People will say Kentucky wasn't very good. Kentucky was 7-5 last year. Levis didn't play in the bowl game. They lost that to Iowa. Levis also did not play against South Carolina because of the toe injury that he suffered, I believe, in the Ole Miss game. So he missed that one. Now, the losing to Vandy is unacceptable. I don't care how you do it. You lose at home to Vandy, it's unacceptable. But he was 7-4 as a starter last year. That's it. 7-4 as a starter. That's not bad. Last time I checked, Kentucky's not a very good program, folks. He won 17 games in 2 years at Kentucky. Again, it's Kentucky. It's not LSU. It's not Auburn. It's not Alabama. You want to say he didn't win enough? I think he won more than somebody normally wins at Kentucky. Bryce Young didn't win a championship at Alabama. That's not good enough for Alabama. And I'm not knocking Bryce for that. I'm just telling you how silly it is. When you look at a 7-win season, 7-4 as a starter, and you say, sucks. Dude, it's Kentucky. Like, their football program has beat our football program a bunch over the last couple years at Louisville, and it bothers me infinitely more when we lose to them in football than it does when we lose at basketball, even though basketball is bigger for both of our schools. Because their football program is dog crap. And so for them to have won 17 games over the last 2 years, I actually think that's a good thing. And John Elway, who went number 1 overall, won 2 Super Bowls and has a gold jacket. John Elway won 9 games over his last 2 years at Stanford. And that didn't stop the Baltimore Colts from drafting him number 1 overall. And their ask for Elway when it came to what they wanted to trade. Now, this is ultimately not what they got because the owner stepped in and, decided that he was going to run things. But their ask was 3 first-round picks, 1 in the top 6 of that 83 draft, and 2 second-round picks. And he won 9 games over the last 2 years as a starter at Stanford. So you guys complain about how much Will Levis won or didn't win. And I'm sitting here saying he won 17 games in 2 years at Kentucky. I used to joke with Jordan Rodgers, and I used to say, dude, when you go in for a job interview, you should just say, yeah, I won 8 games at Vanderbilt as a starting quarterback. Because that is so incredibly impressive because it is so hard to do. Guys, this is Kentucky we're talking about here. They're never good. And, Stoops has gotten them to a level where it's kind of respectable. Year in and year out, they're a between 4 and 7 win team. And Levis won 17 games over 2 years. So, again, for everybody, he throws too many interceptions. So did Dan Marino. He doesn't win enough games. Neither did John Elway. He couldn't beat out Sean Clifford. Neither could Tom Brady. I mean, guys, he is a first-round prospect. Like, he is. I'm not going to tell you he's a special player because, again, I liked him. I didn't love him. But this idea that, Will Levis is undeserving of the attention that he's gotten, I think is completely out of bounds. And for every single one of those things that you can say about him, what can you say? When you bring up C.J. Stroud and I say nobody that's run that offense has had a Hall of Fame level success in the NFL, what do you say to that? Tebow didn't, Chris Leak didn't, Alex Smith didn't. I mean, what do you say? The best 2 examples you can have to defend that are Cam, who left and went somewhere else, and Burrow, who left and went somewhere else. Haskins didn't have success. Miller didn't have success. J.T. Barrett didn't have success. Cardale Jones didn't have success. Justin Fields has not had success. There's no examples there that say that can work in the NFL. Again, other than Fran Tarkenton, there's no example of a guy under 200 pounds being able to do this in the NFL. And again, Fran's era was different as far as defensive players were concerned. I am not here to take up for Levis, but for the hey sucks crowd. Just know everything that you argue, there's a counter to. 615-737-1025. I see your phones loading up, so we'll get to those next. 615-737-1025. Plus, I talked to a college coach who knows Will Levis, who's recruited Will Levis. And I thought what he said was pretty interesting. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 to the game.
The NFL offseason is in full swing, but you'll never miss any of the big news. thanks to Yahoo's Charles Robinson.
They know that there's a chance that they're going to have to deal this guy.
He's one of the best insiders there is.
All of a sudden, he becomes a functional player who we thought was just trash.
Join Charles Robinson every Thursday morning at 8 on Robby and Rex Road, presented by the NFL Alumni Association on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end.
The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Have you noticed that most ice creams now come in smaller cartons? Not Bluebell. We're still making a full half-gallon and a full pint of tasty goodness. Bluebell wouldn't have it any other way.
The good old days are being made right now.
The good old days are being made right.
Waste to your town. Mastodon. Gojira. The Mega Monsters Tour. This Tuesday night at Nashville Municipal Auditorium. With special guest, Lord Ashore. Tickets on sale now at LiveNation.com. Total sensory overload. Mastodon and Gojira.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Nashville is now home to an award-winning full-service spa, Mocara, located in the beautiful Omni Nashville Hotel. Features a wide range of signature services, including massage therapy, body and facial treatments, and yoga. This Mother's Day, treat your mother to a relaxing day at Mocara Spa. She deserves it. Purchasing your Mocara Mother's Day gift cards is easy. Go to omnihotels.com/Nashville or simply stop into the spa located on the 4th floor of the Omni Nashville Hotel, 250 5th Avenue South. For more information, simply call 615-761-3600.
Nashville Sounds Baseball lives on 94.9 The Fan. Catch every pitch.
Swing and a miss, strike 3.
Every hit.
That's a base hit.
Every run.
Looking up, it's gone.
On your home for Sounds Baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
What's happening in Nashville? This is Scott Van Pelt. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
We can obviously be transparent. Kentucky was a much different football team in 2021 than what they were in 2022. So if we protect him when he's out there at whatever point, if we don't protect him better than what it was, it's probably going to look the same, just like it is for every quarterback. So we try to look at the really good exposures, the great performances. We try to look at them, what they look like at their worst, and then just try to get, pull the curtain and see what it looks like. But there was some really impressive performances against some big-time defenses in the SEC. Now, there's some decisions that have to be better. We can't put the ball in harm's way, no matter who our quarterback is.
There you go. That was Mike Vrabel talking about the decision to draft Will Levis, and I don't disagree with anything he said there. Kentucky was a different team in 2021 than they were in 22, and he doesn't want to disparage Kentucky, but he's calling it how it is when it comes to Levis. That team stunk last year. I mean, that team was not a good football team without Will. I mean, to me, they won 7 games because Will Levis was their quarterback. more so than anything else. Texter into the text line says, all I hear you say when you talk about your description of Levis is bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, and that doesn't get better when stepping up into the competition where the defensive schemes are more complex and every player is lightning fast. I brought up one bad decision. To me, the one bad decision that he made that look, it wasn't the one bad decision he made, but to me, the two mental errors that I looked at and I said, come on, dude. One was an interception against Georgia that I did not like. And my guess is Vrabel didn't like it either. And I bet you if Levis, it's funny because I would actually like to have Levis on the show. And normally I don't like putting players or coaches on the show for two reasons. One, it's almost like you have to be nice because they're taking out of time to be on your show. When this show, we want to get right down to it. Like we want to cut right at the bone. We want to get right to the facts, this, that, or the other. And oftentimes because players don't say much. Because it's like, Peter Skoronsky, and I'm just using him as an example. I have no idea what he said. What are your impressions of Nashville so far? Yeah, I really like it. It's really cool. It's okay. I don't, those things, whatever. But I almost want to ask Levis about some of these individual interceptions that I saw when I watched the tape and say, okay, why did you do that? Now, that's what teams did when they brought him in here, was they asked him to go over those and say, okay, why did you make that throw against Georgia from the 18-yard line where, you try to fit that ball in between the safety and the corner? Not the, how did it feel to be sitting in the green room and it was you know what I mean? Ed is in East Nashville. He's up next here on Stillman and Company. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Ed?
Hey, Jared, listen, man, I want to put all this negative talk about the draft to rest. I absolutely love what Rand has done. I'm telling you right now, we are on our way to the Super Bowl. I can see the Titans there in 3 years. Look here. Levis is going to be a winner, and I'm going to tell you why. And all those other draft picks. Listen, there is no – listen to this, Jerry.
I'm listening,
There is
Ed.
no secret why everybody from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds are successful. 1st, 2nd rounds are not. Do you know why, Jared? Do you
Tell
know
me,
why
Ed.
those guys in the later rounds are successful?
Enlighten me.
One word. And all you got to do is go listen to Rocky.
Can you give me
when
the one
Rocky
word?
wanted to fight Clubber Lang, what did the Penguin tell him? You're not hungry. Those guys in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, they're hungry. Those first-round guys, second-round guys, they're not hungry. Levis is hungry. 3 guys went ahead of him, right?
Can I ask you, if you love the draft and you think they're headed to the Super Bowl and you love Levis and all of that?
Absolutely. Let me tell you something.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What did you think of the running back in the 3rd round?
Love it. Tarzan, love it. Absolutely love it. Jared, listen. Richard Dent, all-pro, 3rd round from Tennessee State. Anthony Pleasant, played 15 years in the league from Tennessee State. 205th pick. Now, I'm going to bring it home to you. The best linebacker in the game came from BYU. A 3rd-round pick. Not from the SEC. Fred Warner, baby. Why? Because he's hungry. Those guys are hungry, man. They're not making any money. They want to get a big contract. That's how you win.
I can't do this anymore. Let's go to Bradley, who's up next here on Levis. Thank you for calling the show. What's up, Bradley? Bradley, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Go ahead, Bradley.
Yeah, sorry, man. Just want to say, dude, I'm totally in on Levis, man. His intangibles of being the way the ball jumps off his hand. And I called you last week, said Anthony Richardson and Levis are the 2 guys that have a ball that jump off his hand. But the more I watch him, the more I think he's kind of a gunslinger. He reminds me a little bit of Brett Favre, just in some of the stuff. And it's just he makes some boneheaded decisions. So did Favre. He'd throw it in the middle of a safety and a quarterback because he thought he could get it in there. And I see that in him, and hopefully he makes some better decisions. Hopefully he gets his fundamentals right. But I'm all in on this guy, man. I think if he gets the right coaching and he gets to sit, he'll develop, man. That's the same thing that happened to Favre. Favre had to jump in. So
I don't see the Favre. Bradley, thank you for the call. I don't see the Favre. When I watch a tape, I watch these games. I think what happens is a lot of people just hear a description of somebody and they say, okay, this is what this is like. And I haven't done that with these guys, which is why I went from Richardson Hey, man, I watched Anthony Richardson play. He's pretty good. And that's how with Levis, I don't see that Favre kind of gunslinger mentality. I know that because you throw interceptions, you think, okay, Brett Favre, right? It's like he's athletic and he can throw, but he cannot throw on the run like Brett Favre could. He does not have that. Mahomes has that. He does not have that ability. And I have never seen it at Kentucky. The guy that I think Levis reminds me of at least a little bit, and I said this last week and people got mad, was he of these guys reminded me the most of Steve McNair for a couple of reasons. First off, McNair was athletic and could run and make plays with his legs, but he was not an off-platform thrower. Steve McNair was not the most accurate thrower in the world. But when he could zip a ball in there and he needed to, he could put that ball right on Drew Bennett's hands at the end of that Patriots playoff game. He could put it where it needed to be. And he was tough. And Levis is tough. I watched a Georgia game where Levis dives for a first down off the toe that he had shot up before the game, and he had to come out for one play, and then he runs right back into the game. I mean, he's tough. So I don't see Brett Favre when it comes to Levis, but I do see some Steve McNair. And it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think if I had to say, okay, who is he more like, McNair or Jake Locker, I would say he's more like McNair, because I don't think he misses like Jake Locker used to miss. But Brett Favre might be a little bit of a stretch for me. I don't see that when I watch Will Levis play. Cedric is up next. Thank you for waiting. This is either going to be really good or really bad. Cedric, your thoughts?
Hey, man, listen, I used to call the show every day. You got on to me about that, and I stopped calling for a while. But now I'm back, man, with the Will Levis pick. And do you know why? Why? One word, baby. Because I'm hungry, baby. Since we got Will Levis, I'm hungry. I'm hungry, baby. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot to talk about, Jared, and I don't know if Will Levis is going to turn into your love affair that you have with Marcus Mariota, or if he's going to turn into an actually good quarterback, man. But I am here for it, dog, every day. I'm breaking down film. We got a lot to talk about still.
So what are your thoughts on the Levis pick?
Initially, I don't like it, but I've been watching his tape on YouTube, and Jared, man, I'm about to throw up, man. I kind of agree with you, man. All right, man, I'm gone, man. I agree with Stillman. Bye.
Cedric, as always on the program, I don't know what specifically he agrees with me on, though.
Maybe that you don't hate Levis. Maybe he's coming around on it.
Maybe. I mean, I kept saying this, that I did not hate Will Levis. When people were like, oh, Will Levis here. I'm like, guys, I don't hate Will Levis. I'm like, you guys hate Will Levis. I don't hate Will Levis. And then your phones for the last 3 weeks have just been people complaining about Will Levis, because I was right in assuming that all the talk the Indianapolis Colts had about we love Levis, we love Will Levis, Levis, we'll stay at 4 and take Levis. And I was like, they wouldn't be telling everybody that unless they actually wanted Richardson and not Levis. And then guess what happened? They took Richardson. Now, Jim Irsay has come out and said that he thinks that Richardson's going to start. And, I saw that he said that. I did not hear Jim Irsay say that. But apparently he said something like that. Do not, as a Titan fan, I guess I kind of hope you ruined the kid. But I wouldn't put it, I would have gone to the podium on Thursday night, and I would have said Gardner Minshew is the starting quarterback. And I would have said it with a straight face. And I would have told people, hey, man, we are on a special plan for Anthony Richardson. He's not ready yet. But the talent is undeniable, and we're going to work with him. But Gardner Minshew will be the quarterback. Now, that's what I would have said. That is not what they said. In fact, they said the opposite. And you do that, you can ruin a kid. And I think Levis needs to sit, too, behind Tannehill. But we'll see in training camp. And then, like I said earlier, everything that you do from here on out, everything you do is about making him your franchise quarterback. He is your franchise quarterback. I don't care if it was first-round pick, second-round pick. I don't. This is not 86th. Like it was from Malik last year. Texter into the text line says that he, and this comes from a Knoxville area code, so this doesn't surprise me. I'm a major Vol homer, and I will say the Tennessee fans trashing Levis needs to stop. He was a consensus first-day talent that the Titans were fortunate to get without selling our mother-in-laws at the pawn shop. let me say this. I think Levis is a first-round player. With Malik, I kept saying this last year when they drafted him because somebody texted in and said, well, what was your thoughts of Malik Willis at this time last year? And what I kept saying about Malik Willis was a first-round hype with a third-round pick, which meant that the hype was exciting and that people were going to want to talk about it. And it's like the Tannehill Malik Willis mentorship comment. It blew up. But Malik was some third-round Scarbini quarterback. Remember when that all went down and Tannehill had that 2-minute apology at the press conference? And then when he got into training camp, he was asked about Malik, and he was just, I really like Malik, and he's coming along. And I said, he's the smile and the Tannehill chuckle. You always have to be careful with that Tannehill chuckle to kind of determine what that means. I'm like, that was his way of saying, Malik sucks. And that Malik was not a threat to him, which he wasn't because he stinks. And the Levis thing, I don't know. But I would say I would like to see Tannehill play quarterback this year. I think Tannehill's earned the right to be the quarterback, and I think Levis can benefit from sitting. And I think a lot of these guys can benefit from sitting. Even C.J. Stroud, I think, can probably benefit from sitting, but they have nobody else there to play quarterback. Texter said, Jared, you said last week there is no way to know what these quarterbacks will become. I just want to wait and see what happens with Levis. I'm just glad we did not pick him at 11. See, here's where I disagree, though. And maybe it doesn't matter. But you don't have a fifth-year option on him. So if Tannehill starts this year and then he starts next year, you've only got him at that point. You've only got him for 3 more years. And then you have to pay him. The Packers had all this time to sit Jordan Love on the bench. Well, they asked today about whether or not they're going to pick up the fifth-year option on Jordan Love, which I'm sure is going to be in the $20 million ballpark. And the general manager, Brian Gutekunst, was like, well, we're committed to him as our quarterback, but that's a lot of money for somebody who hasn't played. So it does speed up the time with which you have to decide, whereas if you had drafted him at 11, you'd have that 5th year on him. And I was a little surprised that they took Peter Skoronski if they really liked Will Levis. Because I don't understand how you could love a guard more than you could love a quarterback. That if you really like a quarterback, let's say they're equal, right? That we've got a 95 on the guard and a 95 on the quarterback. You take the quarterback every time. Well, let's say you got a 94 on the quarterback and a 95 on the guard. I still think you take the quarterback. So what, was Skoronski like a 100 and Levis was an 85? And that I don't know the answer to. 615-737-1025. The one thing that I truly miss about the draft, and it certainly wasn't in this draft at all. We'll get to that. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You don't have just an ordinary mom in your life. She's the best. Her work never stops. Her sacrifices are many. Her love is unfailing. This Mother's Day, Genesis Diamonds invites you to join us in celebrating and appreciating the mothers in our lives. Stop in and let one of our trusted advisors help you find a special, meaningful gift. Layering necklaces, stackable rings, eternity bands, pearls, elegant diamond pendants, and of course, stunning diamond earrings. Great Mother's Day ideas for any budget. There's no doubt we love Mom, but sometimes a little extra appreciation goes a long way as a thank you for helping us through challenges, making sacrifices, and always putting the family first. So whether it's her first Mother's Day or her 60th, Mom deserves a gift that's anything but ordinary. And at Genesis, that's our specialty. Exquisite rings, earrings, bands, bracelets, heirloom pieces. Timeless gifts of jewelry that she can enjoy and cherish for decades to come, and always be reminded of how special she is to the family. Genesis Diamonds, online at genesisdiamonds.net.
Real estate investors, listen up. D&M Development announces the pre-sale of Nashville's only non-owner occupied short-term rental resort community. The New Cumberland is perfectly located between Germantown and East Nashville, with amazing views of the city and the Cumberland River. The New Cumberland is a resort-style community featuring community pools, spacious kitchens, 4 bedrooms, and 4 baths. D&M Development is releasing 16 units in their Phase 1. Available now. Go to thenewcumberland.com for for information. That's thenewcumberland.com.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Harmon Energy is your one-stop petroleum solution across all of Tennessee, offering turnkey petroleum solutions for professionals in major industries, serving trucking fleets, construction companies, industrial plants, and more. Whether a large corporation or owner-operator, Harmon Energy has your diesel fuel, lubricant, DEF, and equipment needs. No matter how you're getting there, start with Parman. Visit ParmanEnergy.com for more info. Your Tennessee petroleum solution, providing totally outrageous customer service.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junnie Riddle for Michelle and Junnie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junnie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You know, the draft is what it is. I mean, it's a lot of it's guesswork. A lot of it, you have to keep your fingers crossed that these guys are going to be great. The analysts all tell you the players are great. I mean, so and when every guy gets selected, you know, it's essentially the next, it's the next Mel Hein. Look him up. I mean, when you get right down to it, oh, this guy's great. I love what this guy did here. This guy's wonderful. This guy is a wonderful player. He's a great pass rusher. He's this, he's that. I mean, very rarely after the player is selected do you hear anybody knock the player. This is an awful pick. He stinks. I didn't have him high on my board. The guy can't play. He's got this. You never hear that. All of them are Hall of Famers. So it's hard to decipher, what you want to take out of the analysts. And there's plenty of them out there. You can go to ABC. You can go to ESPN. You can go to the NFL Network. Everywhere you go, there's 20 guys telling you about each particular player.
That was Mad Dog Russo, and I don't disagree. It's too positive when it comes to the NFL draft. Even my dad, and my dad is not as cynical as I am, but he said to me the other day, he was like, I cannot watch every single player they talk about in the third round is going to be a superstar. Every one of them. And I said, yeah. The NFL draft, I'm not going to lie to you folks, the NFL draft used to be about raw emotion and pure drama. And I feel like we've kind of taken some of that out. You know, nobody boos the picks anymore. Remember when, like, the Jets would make a stupid pick at Radio City Music Hall, and the Jet fans used to go freaking bananas when they would make one of those picks? Now it's like they have cameras around, like, a certain fan base, and all of a sudden, the Titans are on the clock and they make the pick and everybody just starts cheering that are wearing Titans uniforms out there. What I would have loved is when Levis got picked to see the people that, thumbs down, this pick stinks. How can we do this? Blah, blah, blah. And you never get any of that anymore. You don't have the guy that got drafted by the Falcons that had the picture of his grandma a couple of years ago and was yelling and screaming. They don't do that anymore. I mean, honestly, it's kind of boring with how positive it is. And I was thinking about what it used to be like in the NFL draft. And this is really broadcasting in general. It's funny because sports radio gets a bad name from people that are like, I'm not interested in watching the sports, talking heads, yelling, screaming. And yet the truth is that used to come from the real broadcasters calling the game back in the days. Now everybody who calls the game positive, 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 positive. This was Mel Kiper. In 1994, when the Indianapolis Colts traded up and took Trev Alberts instead of Trent Dilfer in the 94 draft. Here's how Mel Kiper Jr. reacted.
You got a problem with this move? I think it's a typical Colt move. I mean, here's a team that needed a franchise quarterback to pass up a Trent Dilfer when all you have is Jim Harbaugh. Give me a break. That's why the Colts are picking second every year in the draft, not battling for the Super Bowl like other clubs in the National Football League.
They would never say that nowadays on the draft coverage. Like, they never say things like, how could they pick this guy? Like when the Tajay Spears pick came out and Ian Rappaport told us all that he didn't have an ACL. And you're not going to hear Charles Davis, and I love you, Charles, and I mean that, but you're not going to hear Charles Davis say, how could they pick and hurt running back? They have Derrick Henry. How could they do that? You never hear that anymore. In fact, I was actually watching some old drafts on YouTube, and this shows you how much of a freaking nerd I am. But I was watching some old drafts. This was the 1981 NFL draft. So this is the second draft that was ever shown on TV. And Greg Gumbel was doing breakdowns of teams before their pick came up. The Saints had the number 1 pick. Here's how Greg Gumbel started that breakdown of the Saints.
The New Orleans Saints have been the worst team around for quite some time now. Too long, in fact, if you happen to be a New Orleans fan. And the reason is downright incompetence when it comes to draft time. The statistics will tell the story for New Orleans.
It just comes down to downright incompetence when it comes to draft time. Bob, back to you. We don't have that anymore. And I miss that. We need that back in the draft. By the way, for anyone who's wondering who Mel Heim is that Mad Dog brought up, apparently he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1963. So make of that what you will from Dog. Stillman and Company, we are out of here. We will see you all tomorrow at 2.